This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 442 for the week of Monday, October 31st, 2016. My name is Dr. Hogzack.
And my name is Ed.
Really?
Could have at least said dead.
Who else
I'm
do
dead? No, I'm not. I'm alive.
Oh, and my name is Dia de los Yurkos.
And my name is Al X, as in X person, X alive. You know, get it? Like EX, like.
Okay, well,
like
I'm Zach.
like an ex-parrot.
That's Alex who's talking, and we also have Steve. And Ed is still Ed, okay? You're not committing to the bit.
He's dead.
Yeah,
He's
Ed
dead.
is dead. It should just be dead, exactly.
Drop dead Ed. You're Rick Mail.
So we have a lot of guests with us today. I want to, of course, introduce our very special guest translator for One Piece and Weekly Shonen Jump, Stephen Paul. Hey, Stephen.
I believe you mean Stephen Halloween.
Oh.
We have YouTube sensation Roger's Base with us. Hey, Roger.
You mean Roger D. Buigi? Boo as in ghost, get it?
I get it.
That's not what I meant, though.
Or Japanese for fart.
Is that really the Japanese word for fart?
Yes.
is poo?
Well, it's an onomatopoeia, isn't it? The onomatopoeia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's about the worth of my videos, so I'll go with it. That's fine.
We also have our editorial writer Kyle with us. Hey, Kyle.
Crypt Keeper Kyle,
There you
more
go.
like.
Yeah. So we got the full crew on today for a very special manga recap of chapter 844. We also have an anime recap of 761. We're not up to 800s yet in the anime. We also have an interview with Amanda, who is helping with the One Piece Kabuki for the Japan Foundation in Los Angeles. And Roger and Steve, you guys will be there too, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Roger, you want to tell us a little bit about your plans for the Kabuki on November 27th?
Yeah, so I'm going to the 1:30 show, which is the afternoon show, and before the show actually starts, they're going to rope off a little area. So if you guys want to come and talk and do a meet and greet, I will be there. So come say hi. Please introduce yourself to me.
Steve will be jumping all over that rope.
Probably tripping.
Tripping over that rope, yeah.
Tripping as in the physical act of accidentally falling, right?
No, I'm going to show up high on mushrooms.
Okay.
I was going to say, this is California. I feel like tripping.
Wanted to make sure. It's very important.
So I also want to mention we have a Patreon at patreon.com/One Piece Podcast. This is our big Patreon week. We're going to have an exclusive episode up there this week. Plus, we'll be reading who has supported us on Patreon a little bit later on in the show. We also have a store, guys. Check out our Redbubble store, which is an idea I totally did not get from Roger. So check that out. You could get cool merch on there. I know Roger has his own store as well, so you could get some of Roger's stuff. What's your URL for that? Or it's a long
it's just
URL,
Rogers
right?
Base. I think
Okay,
it's the
I don't know.
same. It's like what if you just search Rogers Base, the store. Yeah, it's just my logo and a Mammoth Boys shirt for Jack.
Of course, there's a Mammoth Boy. And for us, we have the Banana Me and several of our logos. And then you could search One Piece Podcast or click the link at the top of the website. But with that all out of the way, we got a lot of show to get through. So why don't we get started?
Oh, Night of the Living Ed.
Ah!
Or The
That's a good
Walking
one.
Ed.
Ah!
Missed opportunities left and right.
Ed, what were you doing? Hey everyone, we have a very special interview, and Stephen and Steve are with me as well to talk to Amanda from the JFLALC. How's it going, Amanda?
Hi, it's great, and it's the Japan Foundation Los Angeles.
I'm trying to figure out I forgot what the other L was.
Well,
Barbecue.
originally it stood for Language Center, but we do a lot more than language, so...
Though One Piece is a language of its own, as I'm sure we'll discuss. So we're here to talk about the One Piece Kabuki, which is coming to Los Angeles. Can you tell us a little bit about what people could look forward to?
Definitely. So the One Piece play, the Kabuki play that was performed in Tokyo last year, was so popular it sold out every show. And now the company, the Kabuki company that put it on, the Shochiku Theater, they filmed that live performance in HD and are now actually showing that in movie theaters in Japan. And we were lucky enough to arrange a couple screenings of it in Los Angeles. So that's very exciting. And it's basically a certain story within the One Piece plot that is being done in Kabuki style. And it's, well, as you know, it's halfway through the entire saga. So it's the Paramount War when Luffy goes to save Ace. And I'm frankly dying to see it.
Yeah. I'm incredibly jealous of everyone out there in Los Angeles who will have a chance to see this. Also, it's free, which we should be mentioning every couple of seconds here. So, is there anything else about the play you think people should know? Or I guess I should even start out. Do you want to give everyone a kind of primer of Kabuki?
Okay, well, Kabuki is a traditional Japanese theatrical style, and it is very stylized. Its own kind of makeup, its own kind of costuming and set design, as well as its own kind of language. And what's most visible about it is all of the stylistic poses that the actors do. If a character has gone mad, there's a certain pose that the character will do. If a character is exhilarated, there's a certain pose that they'll do. So look forward to seeing some very interesting poses done by our beloved characters.
Steve or Steven, do you have questions for Amanda as well?
Have you actually seen this filmed version already?
No, I haven't.
Did you see the live version?
I have not. No, I've seen Kabuki before, but I was not in Japan when this was happening.
Yeah, it was kind of a short-term run. It ran, I think, in 2 cities, right? In Tokyo and...
Yeah, that's right. I know it was running for October and November in 2015 in Tokyo, and then I think it had a run in Osaka or somewhere around there.
I have to imagine that this is probably like a really good kind of cross-cultural opportunity because... I think a lot of people are interested by like the concept of Kabuki and like what does it mean? It's so different, it's so strange from what we're used to. And I think the fact that you're actually just taking these familiar characters and events and you're placing them in that context probably makes it a lot easier to like get in because you already know who these characters are. You don't have to be like, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? You already know what's going through their heads. And so you can actually see the visual representations of their emotions and all of the futuristic, elements of Kabuki, and actually understand kind of, to a certain extent what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I mean, that's why they decided to make One Piece Kabuki. This was that as a traditional art, it has mostly a reputation of being, like Shakespeare. And some people like Shakespeare and some people don't get Shakespeare, right? Mm-hmm. So the Kabuki Theater decided, okay, well, we need to bring a new generation, introduce Kabuki to younger people who may not have had had the desire to come and see a real traditional Kabuki play. So they decided to make like a series called Super Kabuki, and one of the Super Kabukis is One Piece.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. So this is definitely a way. What we're doing is we're introducing Kabuki to One Piece fans. We definitely can't do it the other way around. Like we can't introduce One Piece to Kabuki fans because the story is in the middle. It's not the beginning of One Piece. It's taken right out of the middle. So we had to be very careful with our PR for this.
I was just reading about Oda's thoughts on, the combination of One Piece and Kabuki too. He kind of said, it kind of fits perfectly. The pirates are, exactly like Kabuki Mono. And it integrates well together. So, I'm for those who have the opportunity to go see it, I'm just, it sounds like a really exciting chance. Steve, you're in LA.
Yeah, I'm definitely going, and
Awesome.
I'm curious. Yeah, and I'm curious, and I think I'll ask amongst some other fans. What can we expect the day of the screenings? Like, what's going on? Is it just we show up and watch it, or are there other things going on?
There are a couple other things going on. There are 2 screenings, one at 10 a.m. and one at 1:30 p.m. And it's really important to know for the people who are considering going that it's the same day as the Christmas parade, which means that there are going to be street closures. Do not drive. Luckily, there's a metro stop literally right there. So if you do end up, having to drive to Los Angeles, park somewhere with another metro stop and then take the metro to Hollywood and Highland. It's going to have street closures. Like, there's going to be 0 parking. But the actual, we're going to have like an area of the lobby of the movie theater that we can do whatever we want with. We're going to have a cosplay corner. So we're really hoping that people who are super excited about One Piece costumes and cosplaying might show up in their favorite costumes, because in this cosplay corner, it's going to have a Japan Foundation backdrop so that you can take selfies. We're also going to have actually a few sets of costumes that we bought in Japan. We've got like a marine coat and hat. We've got several chopper hats and an ace hat and Trafalgar Law coat and a full set of time skip Luffy's outfit and Zoro's outfit. So you can put those on in the lobby and then take selfies, or come in your own costumes, obviously. And we're also going to be hiring a couple professional One Piece cosplayers to come and take selfies with you and stuff like that. So we're going to have a cosplay contest, and the winner gets all of the cosplay pieces that we bought in Japan. Otherwise, yeah, right before the screening starts, we're going to have a very short shamisen performance, like a sort of a taste of kabuki music live right before the screening. So look forward to that.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's about it.
It's going to be an event. It's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
that's the idea.
And now also I know to plan accordingly for getting there, knowing that there's maybe
Yeah,
street
it's very
closures and all that.
Yeah, I see
Thank you
Steve
for that.
ending up in the middle of the Christmas parade trying to get there.
In One Piece costume?
In a One Piece.
Yeah.
dress.
See a lot of Santas, but no Luffy's. I don't get this.
What is this? There's a parade with no Luffy's. Any other questions, Steve? I think that definitely covered it for me.
I guess I would just comment that, it's like when we heard about them doing these kabuki performances in Japan, like it just seemed like such a cool but like a very distant thing. Like, we'll never see something like that. And while they clearly have this film of it, there's no guarantee that is going to be widely available either. So even while it is just obviously this one showing of it in LA, it sounds like a really neat event and an opportunity to get to come into contact with these kind of different very old fashioned and traditional Japanese cultural arts. So I hope that we get lots of people to show up.
Yeah, and you never know if it proves to be an extremely popular cinema kabuki, which is, by the way, the cinema kabuki was a series of filmed HD kabuki plays that turned into movies, and this is just one of the series. If the One Piece one gets a lot of people to come, then who knows what might happen in the future.
Yeah, guys, go. It's November 27th. That's Sunday, November 27th, 10 a.m., 1:30 p.m. for free. It's in Japanese, but there are English subtitles. And it's at the TCL Chinese 6 theaters on Hollywood and Highland, as we mentioned before. And it is free, but you have to go get your ticket now.
Yes, you have to reserve a spot. You don't actually get tickets. You get on our list. If you're on our list, you get into the theater first. But you can still walk in if there's room, if there are seats left.
So bring as many people as you can.
That's the idea.
Pack that place. So thank you so much, Amanda, for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys for letting me come.
This is the manga recap for chapter 844, Luffy versus Sanji. And before we get to the precious material in this chapter, Ed, what's going on the front page here?
The first page has a request for Sugar whipping up some evil grape jam, evilly with evil wolves, because it's Halloween. No, she's just whipping up some regular grape jam over a hot brick fireplace. And this was requested by Noda Skywalker from Osaka. So
I think Oda's a little bit biased with this Noda Skywalker.
Yeah. Seriously, guys.
Or maybe Noda Skywalker's just the only person sending in suggestions.
It could
Get
be
on
that.
that.
They might be the only person that actually knows what address to send in.
I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. It's the only one who knows Oda personally who's like, here.
It's Greg.
It's Greg, guys. Noda Skywalker's
Yeah.
Greg.
And remember, Luffy versus Sanji, you only have a week left to send in your votes. So
Yeah, this is the GameFAQs tournament of which anime character is better than the other one.
So I think we could probably just get started unless there's anything about this front page you want to talk about.
Well, I was just going to say, I kind of think you guys were talking about how Noda Skywalker might know like Oda's address. What if Noda Skywalker is just Oda,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
my
Oda
idea.
uses that pseudonym whenever he wants to just draw whatever he wants to draw?
Yeah,
That sounds-
Noda means totally not Oda, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, but he would have said Kumamoto and not Osaka, I feel like. I feel like he
Yeah,
would have been honest
I
about
feel
where he
like-
was from.
I feel like there's a lot of holes in your theory there, Roger.
Oh, well, that's fine. Just like all my theories. It's
Life
okay.
of Life of a YouTube star.
Exactly.
All right, Ed.
I think this one's really cute. I'm
Okay.
pretty jelly that I didn't come up with it
Oh,
myself.
Jesus.
Ah.
I thought you were done.
Steven level pun right there.
That was a
great.
Steven level.
I don't know. It's a jam. This is a completely different thing.
Oh, my God.
Aw, senpai.
Ed.
All right, well, let's preserve our jokes for another time.
Oh, Jesus
Well, I
Christ.
marmalade your face.
Or we could just switch it up and talk about Nintendo things.
I think we've lost all our listeners. Ed, what's going on in the front page?
So King Bomb looks on pensively, I suppose, and as Luffy starts in, it's quite the scene. It's quite the taking up like a third of the page here. What do you mean you'll drive me off, Sanji? As the wind sort of blows in the background, he says, "Just get lost. What other meaning could there be? Like, what do you need?" As the rest of the family shows a range of emotions. Yanji has this shit-eating smirk on his face. That Niji with the big grin. Is that Ichiji? I get
That's
those.
Niji.
Yeah, it's Niji.
Niji.
Ichiji's the one to the left of that.
Yeah, Ichiji has the flock of seagulls.
Yeah, they're going in order there. And Ichiji is sort of scowling, and Reiju and Judge are sort of more flat affectation.
Pensive?
But yeah, and Sanji continues. I don't know what got into your head, but I appreciate that you came all this way to see me. But here's the thing, though: if you really care about me, this is all backwards. I'm aligning myself with rich and powerful Big Mom pirates. That'll bring me much more happiness than sticking around with your tiny, poor crew. And he's really going in on them there. If I'm being honest, I don't even know if you have what it takes to be the king of the pirates.
Oh.
It's just common sense. If you want to win the race, you got to choose the right horse.
That's the worst
And
thing you
Luffy
could say to him.
getting a little upset, and Nami's lost it. He's like, "Stop joking around. What's going on with you?" And she's yelling at Sanji. Pretty, she's going in on him.
On a,
Before-
yeah, please,
I think it'd
Roger.
be,
Or Alex first, yeah.
I was gonna say, I think it'd be super funny if, like, from this point forward, he starts talking in the 4Kids voice. It's like, this is how I really sound.
This is how I've always sounded.
By the way, I don't know. Have we seen this before? Was it revealed earlier and I just forgot that
No.
there is also a giant mouse thing
No,
as
that's
well
the
as
first
you.
the carriage?
That's what I was going to bring up. The little German
Huh.
soldiers are in little mouse carriages. Yeah.
Oh man, now I'm gonna have to think up some other joke too, huh?
Well, if you could come up with one at the end of this by the end of this podcast, we'll
Yeah,
have
you-
made your
you
job
better-
easier.
You better get thinking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing's really going to beat Calicoach, I think. That was just beautiful. So,
I don't know.
I feel
Call it
like
a
you've
Carmen.
already made it.
Like Carment, like a varmint.
We move to the next page here as we see Sanji's reaction to Nami's exclamation is a steel glance, a glare. And you'd think Nami, we discussed this last week, you'd think Nami would get the hint, but she just looks either more confused or taken aback than ever. And
Yeah, she reacts like a point and click character in a game.
shit,
Just
I clicked the
completely
wrong
stagnant.
thing.
This is my surprise face.
Oh, like
Well, that is Nami's surprise face.
Oh
You
yeah,
can
'cause-
see her iris.
But
Isn't
it's just
isn't the
it's
little
straight
petting
on.
mini game in Pokemon called Pokemon Ami? You
Yeah.
can just make it Pokemon Nami, and it's like you're
Wow.
petting her, and she's, bugging out her eyes. I'll
I'm
stop.
pretty sure
Yeah.
they had a mini game like
There's
that
no
in the
consent.
Japanese version of Fire Emblem Awakening, right? Or
They censored it, unfortunately, for the American version.
right.
Anyway,
It's heavy
Luffy, Luffy responds to this. So what you're saying is you've been lying to me this whole time? And Sanji, I assume in his 4Kids voice, said, yeah, that's right. I've been looking down on you on the inside. I realize it's hard to accept reality when it comes out of the blue here, but I could beat it into you instead. So put up your fists. Which now I'm imagining it in the 4Kids voice. It's just losing all the drama of this moment. So the dude bros look on and say, whoa, where's that light coming from? Flames? And obviously Sanji has activated his Diablo Jambe. And Luffy seems to prepare himself. And as the kick arrives and frooms toward him, he takes it. I'm not even going to try and pronounce
Jushoot.
Jushoot?
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
That seems
Shots.
inappropriate.
His heel turn. He's a Trump supporter too.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right, Sanji over here.
Yeah.
and he knocks Luffy back, much to Nami's surprise. Steve, where does this heel turn take him?
Well, it sends Luffy twirling back, and he lands on his feet and just keeps skidding. He keeps going. Like, this kick has sent him pretty far back, but he stops himself, and Sanji's like, "Damn it!" As Luffy stands tall in defiance to everything that Sanji's doing, blurts out a little bit of blood out of his nose. Not perverted thoughts, though. He just got kicked in the face really hard, and he's even missing a tooth. A teeth. And he's smiling. No, he's not smiling. But he's pretty bloody. And Sanji just reiterates, "Put up your fists." And almost like the They Live fight scene, Luffy says, "I'm not gonna fight you." And Ichiji looks on mysteriously. And Sanji says, "Fine, then disappear." And Luffy's like, "I won't be doing that either." And as Sanji brings back his foot once again to kick Luffy, he says, "You always insist on getting your own way."
Kyle?
Luffy takes one right in the kisser. This is a really striking panel. His hair is all light with the fire of the Diablo Jambe. He goes twirling back again, but to Sanji's surprise, he stands his ground. A little bit tougher this time than the last time, but he also isn't flown quite as far. Sanji looks on and is hit with a brief flashback to the time that he shared with him on Baratier, where Luffy calls out, "Hey, cook, join us. Be the cook for my pirate crew." And that face that's plastered in his memory is then juxtaposed with one of Luffy with his tooth missing, his eyes sullen, and him beat up from these kicks. Nami decides to interject here. "Stop it, Sanji. We're only here to bring you back." She keeps calling out from him from her perch. "Luffy fought with an enemy officer all through the night to get here. He's in terrible condition." But Luffy decides to cut her off. "Enough, Nami. Don't interfere. This is a duel." To my surprise and Sanji's as well, Sanji says, "You call this a duel?" Because it's a pretty one-sided to this point, at least. Sanji lands another kick, and Luffy just bends without any resistance. He takes another one to the stomach, another one to his chin, and we continue.
Steve?
and we just get more blood splatter. It's getting pretty intense as Nami once again yells out to Luffy, and Sanji just goes, "Get lost already! Be gone from my sight!" As Luffy's just being kicked back but still standing up, glaring at Sanji, saying, "No." And Sanji is just getting so frustrated, the veins popping in his forehead, and just gives him another kick as he just crashes through some, I don't know what this is, like just a wall or a mountain or something, but Luffy just goes crashing through it. And like, this is like, it's starting to look really painful, the look on Luffy's face. But as he sits up, he sees Sanji up in the air doing his skywalk, and we see the look on Sanji's face, just preparing. And Nami's like, "All right, Sanji, all right, we'll leave. He's already dead." But he's not dead, as Sanji comes down and attack. If you might remember from Skypiea, where he defeated Zach's favorite character. And Luffy says, "I am not leaving," as we flash back to Luffy again at Baratie saying, "You're a good cook, and you're joining my crew." And then we get the close-ups of both Sanji and Luffy's eyes, the intensity as Sanji brings down a konkase, I think that's how you pronounce it, right down on Luffy's head. And boy, what an impact this looks like. You got a lot of heavy shadows here, of course, from the flames, but this looks like it hurt a lot.
Right in the melon.
Alex? I feel like Oda doesn't often do that effect around. You see, he has like the sort of stars effect around his head. It's like you can just feel like the concussive effect of the attack.
Yeah, and the stars,
you're absolutely right.
And the stars mirror Luffy's hair shape as it hits.
Yeah.
Same with the vertical lines too, going down the close up of Sanji and Luffy. It almost kind of looks like you feel the movement of the leg, like moving down onto Luffy's head.
Mm-hmm.
Alex.
And as we see him bring his fiery foot off of Luffy's head, Luffy was quite loopy at this point. You can't help but feel the pain that he's feeling right now, or so it seems. That's an attack that Sanji usually means to crush somebody's head in. So I wonder how much it actually affected Luffy's rubber body. But either way, Luffy thumps on the ground and Sanji slowly walks away. And we see the hills have a bit of a reaction. One of them is like, looks pretty happy. The other one's a little sad looking. It's kind of fun to look and see these.
I feel like the hills were placing bets on like who was going to win, and the one I got one.
Maybe the hills are named tragedy and comedy.
Perhaps. So then we get a view of the Germa soldiers commenting on Sanji's battle prowess, and that he for sure has the Vinsmoke blood coursing through his veins. And once again, we see a close-up of Luffy's lifeless body and Sanji's cold face as he walks away. Nami stops him and says, "Hang on, Sanji," and gives him a huge slap across his face. And Yonji remarks on that she is brutal, and that's pretty awesome. And with tears in her eyes, she says, "Goodbye. Sorry for overstepping our bounds." And rather than apologize or have hearts in his eyes, Sanji just remains cold.
You can't look her in the eyes.
No, you can't.
Steven, was the original Japanese for this when she calls out to Sanji? Curiously, did she call him Sanji-kun, or was it just Sanji? Because
no, it's that's a good question, or a good point to raise, because she usually calls him Sanji-kun, and here she calls him just Sanji, which it's kind of like it's like an indicator of just how seriously she's taking this, that that he has overstepped these bounds, almost like she's withdrawing this kind of level of I don't know if intimacy is the right word, but kind of personal closeness, and just being like, no, you're just Sanji. And I mean, you get the idea. You know, obviously with Viz, we don't use the suffixes in the One Piece translation, but clearly, you know, her whole actions on this page makes it pretty clear how she is feeling about him.
I like how much of a tool Yonji is.
Yeah.
He's so smug.
It's like, whoa, that chick is brutal, awesome, radical.
You're a Meshi.
That's cool part. Like, whoa.
So
she's cute.
So as he gets back into the Calico, Judge remarks, well, it seems that unnecessary connection has finally been severed, and Sanji gets into
that's all settled. Won't be seeing them again.
Look at the Calico. The Calico is so happy.
He's been happy this whole time.
Well, he doesn't know anything.
Nothing gets the Calico down.
I have
no idea. So he gets back in the Calicoach, and they say, "Let's go."
And yes, the Calicoach starts up, and the carriage starts to go into motion. The wheels are turning, and Luffy pushes himself back up onto his feet, and he calls out, "Wait, Sanji!" And we can see, you know, the brothers' attention is caught by this as they look out the window, and you see he's far away already. But Sanji just he can't even look. He just has his face. He's covering his face with his hand, and you know, like ruffling his hair over his forehead. And Luffy's, you know, he's kind of calling him out for what he said. He's like, "What do you mean inferior pirates?" He's like, "Come on, you don't mean that. Stop lying." And you know, you can't. You really think this is going to work? Don't be an idiot. And he's kind of, you know, he's voicing all of our opinions as well. It's like, do you really think this is going to work? You really think this is going to work on Luffy? And then he has this real dagger here where he says, "You can kick me all you want, but you're the one feeling the pain." Which
yeah, if you're going to plagiarize from the best.
Yeah, it's a very
I'm not the monster, Sanji. You are.
No, that's straight out of Whitebeard's mouth from the Paramount War.
It's a very like Saturday afternoon special type of line, but you know, given all we know about these characters, I think it's super. It's pretty effective.
Yeah, I really like that line.
It's the same thing that Whitebeard said to Squard during the war.
But let's be honest, Luffy and Sanji are slightly more, you know, characters that we could relate to or see more than Squard.
I liked it then too. I like it even more now.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Okay.
Good line.
Watch the anime, Zach. They give Squad his backstory.
Stephen, please continue.
And yeah, this just it brings Sanji to tears. You know, he's biting his lip there, and he is just tormented by this. And Nami is, you know, she just doesn't understand like why they have to do this. Why, you know, why would you yell at him like this? And, you know, Luffy's not having it. And Reiju asks Sanji if they should stop. You know, do you want to continue that? And Sanji just says no. He's done. He doesn't want to be here anymore. He can't take this. And we flash back to a younger and more innocent time where Sanji tells Luffy, "You ever hear of the All Blue?" Which you know, of course, was a conversation they had right when when he was being recruited at Baradier. And Luffy sums it up by saying, "This voyage isn't over yet." You know, in other words, you haven't found your All Blue, and you can't just leave us until you do.
Yeah. Go ahead, Roger.
Sure. And on the very next page, basically, Luffy continues his rant, and he says, he vows, actually, "I'll be waiting right here. And if you don't come back, I'll just sit here and I'll starve." So basically saying that he's going to go on a hunger strike until Sanji comes back. And he says, "I mean, you're the cook for my ship, for God's sake." As we also, by the way, I want to point this out. Ichiji, it looks like he's like patting Sanji on the back during this panel. I just literally...
That's
Oh, is that
Niji.
Niji?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because he's got, oh yeah, that is Niji. Yeah, but it looks like he's sort of like patting Sanji on the back, like, hey, brother, you did an all right job. And meanwhile, we get a flashback just opposing with that. With ew, he was cooking for rats in the kitchen again. So when little Sanji was getting beaten up, cooking for the rat when he was growing up with the Vinsmoke siblings, and Luffy again vows, I won't eat anyone's food but yours anymore. And Nami's still crying, and he says, I'll just stand here and starve out in the rain and the snow, waiting for you to come back. As the Calicoach goes down the street, see some heavy breathing, the rattle of the street, and then come back, Sanji. Without your help, I can't become the king of the pirates. And then boom, we see Sanji just completely broken, sobbing, and Luffy once again making this vow as he's got a broken tooth and he's just completely bloodied up. And then to be continued.
That is chapter 844. I think I have to start with our resident Sanji fan here. Steve, what did you think of this chapter?
Who, me? Oh, I definitely. We had this conversation last week, but it was more like don't tread the same waters of Nami and Robin. But really reading over this chapter, I kind of realized there's a hint of that with the panel with Nami saying, "Why would he do this? What reason?" And Luffy just says, "Shut up." And it's like, no, it's not time for exposition yet. So I think clearly, and thank you, Stephen, for your great translations. I think the way you're able to word it, I think like Luffy knows, like, I've been through this shit too many times already.
Right.
Why do you think that, this time is any different? You know I'm going to be able to get you out of this. So I think this is kind of a new take on the whole crewmate leaves the crew storylines that we've seen previously. Very intense. It's Sanji he's one of the originals. He's one of the original five. So him and Luffy go way back, and to see them have this, I wouldn't really call it a fight. This scuffle, or just Luffy just taking kicks, and I'm saying it was really eating up the both of them inside. And Luffy's response I really enjoyed, because it reminds me of kind of like that little speech he had back in Arlong Park when he was fighting Arlong, when he was saying like, "Oh, I can't do some of the things that my other crewmates do. Like I can't cook, I can't cut, I can't lie." So it was very reminiscent of that, and I like the stance of just Luffy saying like, "I can't be this person I want to be without you." And it shows how, like, as much as Luffy's very ambitious and he has this goal to be, king of all the pirates, he's not very self-centered or egocentric, which is, just, it's really good qualifications of a leader. I'm trying to think of other things.
Steve, I just want to build off of that for a second. I think the revelation that Luffy had at the end of the war, kind of how he needs his crew, I think even kind of factors into that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if he would have said that, maybe, but before that. But I think it just like drives that home. I need my crew, I need my friends.
Well, if you think back to when Nami originally left, Luffy's just reason is like, "Oh, well, I want you to be my navigator. I chose you, so you're gonna be my navigator." But now it's a bit different now. Like, and I think with Robin, it was just like, "Well, why? Why didn't you tell us from the get-go?" And at this point, Luffy's now is just like, "Hey, I know my place, and I know I can't do things without my crew. Why do you think this situation's any different than the previous ones?" And other than some really intense action poses, which I think Oda did a really stellar job on, it was just it was very emotional. I think Luffy being really bloodied up here, kind of and the One Piece is never shy of having blood and all that, but I felt like it meant a lot more here. It really got across that this is like Sanji's really not holding back here, and it just made it, poor choice of words for me, but just more painful to see all these characters go through that.
I have to say, these are some of Oda's most realistic crying faces. I mean, you could think back at the series, and there's some.
Oh, give it time. Sanji will have another ugly crying face.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think these crying panels toward the end perfectly encapsulate Sanji as a character, and it's really cool to see. Roger, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this chapter when I read through it, and sort of to touch on what Steve was talking about with the kicks and all the little fighting bits. They really did look visceral. Like a lot of the time, there's some really cool fights in One Piece, and there's awesome little actions, and you're going, oh, that looks really cool. But I could like feel the movement of the kicks almost like coming off the page this week, and that's something I really appreciated about this chapter. But I don't know if you guys touched on this last week, but it's something that I thought throughout the course of this chapter and last week's chapter, and that's WWZD. What would Zoro do? Because I keep thinking, like, if Zoro was in this situation, and you know how he always says whatever the captain says goes, like never go against the captain. And I'm thinking back even to like the Luffy versus Usopp bit back in Water 7, how Zoro said, you know, you're going to have to fight Usopp, otherwise I can't look to you as a captain. I'm curious, like, how Zoro would feel about this entire confrontation, because Zoro obviously he's always had his scuffles with Sanji, and I'm wondering if he would go to the defense of Luffy, or if he would sort of like step back and say, you know what? No, this is the captain's place. He's going to have to take it, and he's going to have to take it on, and this is his choice to stay here and sort of let Sanji go. So, yeah, I kept thinking about that through the whole chapter, and I was kind of wondering what you guys thought about that.
That was definitely in my mind, too. Alex, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't think about Zoro at all during this chapter, actually. Honestly, this is Sanji's story. Like, I'm not invested in anything Zoro has to say right now.
I mean, I was only thinking because I think Zoro is kind of that like conscience of the crew kind of thing, and in the Usopp
this is
fight, at least. Yeah,
but I don't think this is a very different fight from the Usopp versus Luffy fight. This isn't like a battle for whether or not this person is staying on the crew. This is Sanji basically telling Luffy, let me deal with this myself. It's not a matter of him saying, I'm leaving this crew. He's
saying that, but he's not saying that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The circumstances are completely different. And I think that if Zoro were present for this, he probably, he would probably say something to the effect of, just let him go. This is clearly a personal thing.
I think he'd echo Luffy.
Yeah.
I think that's all there is to that. Steven, what are your thoughts?
I do agree that this is not just in terms of kind of, I guess, like the philosophy of the scene. It's not necessarily the same as the Luffy versus Usopp fight, but I think it definitely mirrored it in certain ways, and the way that it was presented, that these characters who are, they're not antagonists, they're supposed to be on the same side, having to fight like this through circumstances that are not entirely in their control. It honestly did. It's going to be kind of a corny joke, but I definitely felt a little like Captain Luffy Civil War in this chapter.
I guess the one big difference is that Luffy didn't fight back, though.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he took all the punches.
Right. It's like the fighting is physical, but the actual conflict is all mental. It's in the arguments that they're kind of making toward each other, that, Sanji is trying to push him away, and Luffy is refusing to back down. Like he's not like physically forcing him back into line, but he's basically demanding, he's demanding an explanation that will, make sense, that will allow Luffy to buy what's going on here. And obviously Sanji can't. So, the outcome is kind of preordained. And I don't know. It's I don't know how much more there is to say about that.
To
It
Did you
does.
think of a good mouse pun?
A good mouse pun? No. It did occur to me that just in terms of like story arc construction, that this is kind of like, I was talking with Greg about this, that we had previously said like, oh, this fight with Luffy and Cracker, that's kind of like, it's one of Oda's little like, stumbling blocks or his blockades in the process of an arc, where it's like, okay, you have to get past this little thing. This is going to tie you up for a little while so that Luffy doesn't just rush ahead and, knock out Big Mom and all of a sudden everything is fine. We had the Cracker stuff that, we kind of dicked around in the woods for a little while, which I, made my dissatisfaction known. And then he finished Cracker. But then this seems like a much more significant use of that, because now Luffy's saying like, okay, fine, we're not going to settle this here, but I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to wait, and stuff is going to happen. But this basically allows Luffy and Sanji to have this confrontation, to get this stuff out in the open, to kind of fully acknowledge the kind of the personal harm of this turn of events for Luffy and for Sanji and the rest of the crew, without having to completely settle it at this moment. Because now Sanji can go onward. We can do this wedding stuff. We can get to the real drama of the arc with this kind of hanging over it. And I think it was a really clever and effective way to, again, kind of delay Luffy and delay the eventual climax of the arc until it's much more ready to come to fruition.
Now, I don't have that much to add, but I do want to say one thing in particular. I really enjoyed the rest of the Vinsmoke family's sort of reaction to this, and that they were kind of enjoying it a little bit, or that they know and don't care that Sanji isn't being entirely truthful with them, but they know that they've broken him to the point that he feels he can't, that he has to do this with Luffy. Like, they're enjoying that a little bit, and or they don't care that he's not being entirely truthful when he says he wants to marry this girl. And just their reactions to it were entertaining to me, aside from all the things that everyone has said here already.
Well, great page also is the second to last page, the one where Luffy says he's going to starve. Because you see, like, Niji is like putting his hand on his shoulder, like, "Yeah, way to go, bro," and like Yonji's laughing.
Well, you don't know what he said. I mean, he could have said, "Well, what are you crying now, you fucking pansy?"
Little cry baby.
Yeah.
But we just look at that positioning, because here you have Luffy saying like, "Hey, like I'll starve if I don't eat your food," and then he's surrounded by his brothers mocking him, and then we see that little flashback panel of what did his brothers used to do? Oh yeah, they used to beat him up for feeding rats. So yep. Luffy is a rat in their eyes, and now like Sanji's right back at square one. So I thought that was a pretty good page layout.
Actually, to address what Ed was just saying too about the Vinsmoke reactions, it's possible too that they're just completely oblivious to the undercurrent here, because we've seen like throughout their commentary the last several chapters that like they just assume that's not like, why wouldn't you be happier here? You have all this money, you have all these servants, like it's obviously better. And like, even Reiju, who is like the sympathetic one, is like, yeah, what are you so upset about? Like, obviously this is better. So it's possible that they just completely bought this, and, they obviously know that Sanji is upset, but they're just like, oh yeah, okay, this is over with. Clearly he wants to be here. And, I don't know. They've definitely shown themselves to be very in their own bubble as far as how they view like Sanji and kind of the rest of the world in general, and their place in it.
Kyle, what did you think of this chapter?
There was a lot that I liked in this chapter. One of the minor things was Ichiji has a couple panels that I thought were interesting, where the rest of his family is kind of yucking it up and having a lot of fun at Sanji's expense, but he has a more stoic reflection on his face. And I've been wanting Ichiji and Niji to have some kind of differentiation between their personalities, because they seem kind of like identical twins to me up to this point. So I'd like to see something develop out of that. As far as Luffy versus Sanji, I did spend a lot of this chapter thinking about the comparison to Luffy versus Usopp. And I think if I had to boil that contrast down, the Usopp comparison to me comes down to that fight could be summarized in that the two of them needed each other, and that's what they were trying to prove. And by the end of that arc, by reaching out to one another off the edge of Water 7 and the Going Merry. But this chapter is Luffy saying, I need you, and that's a lot different than trying to be stubborn and not wanting to say how you truly feel. Luffy's laying it all out on the line. I can't become the king of the pirates without your help. And I really like that the chapter ended on that note, because that panel is going to be really striking for a long time to me, where Sanji's, I said I messed up again. Luffy's catchphrase has been, I'm going to become the king of the pirates. But now we've got this iconic panel where he just says, I can't become the king of the pirates without your help. But as much as I like this chapter, it gives me a sour taste for what is going to come next, because I wrote about this in one of my editorials before, that one of the things that's bugged me in a lot of arcs is Luffy getting stuck or incapacitated or lost. And I feel like...
Thank you again, Kyle, for writing that.
This hunger strike is the next iteration of that to me. And I had been so keen on everything that was going on in this arc up until this, and it seems kind of like a red flag to me that I'm not really going to like what Luffy does in the story for a while.
Alex.
Well, actually, I'll respond to that first. This is something that Oda does all the time, though. This is nothing new. No matter what, there's going to be a bit in every single arc where Luffy is incapacitated for some reason. But I have no problem with this one. This one reminds me completely of the "I'm going for a walk" bit from Arlong Park, and that's a really cool moment, because it's just Luffy going for a walk until Nami says, "Help me." This is kind of a similar situation, I think. I'm getting those kind of vibes. The Luffy getting incapacitated never really bothers me, unless it's something really stupid like him getting stuck between two buildings, that kind of thing.
Or even like the 10 minutes, or was it 10 minutes with Gear 4 and Dressrosa, where he was incapacitated?
Jesus, let's not even go there. All right.
Yeah.
But that aside, the fight was awesome. I loved it. Very, very tense, very emotional. The last couple pages were really, really, really hard for me to reread. This was a really painful chapter in the best way possible, I think. Sanji must be going through his own personal hell right now, even more so than before. He had to just beat the crap out of his captain. His captain, of course, telling him what's up. And also, he made Nami cry. And, that's probably killing him, too. So, that being said, Nami, last week, I bet all of my savings on Nami, saying that she would be the one to figure all this out. And while I think it's really awesome that Luffy, as bullheaded as he is, was the one to really say, no, this is bullshit. Nami was the one who bought it, which disappoints me kind of. However, if I was to make an argument for it, it's that Sanji has never looked at Nami that way before. Sanji has never not shown hearts in his eyes for Nami and acted, warmly towards her, or So this is, I don't know. I feel like if there was an argument for the side of Nami, completely buying all of this, it's the fact that it's just the way that Sanji's acting towards her. That, or she's just a really good actress and keeping up a front until the Calicoach goes away.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that argument that she is just putting on a master class in acting at this point, but I don't know. I feel like Oda himself, he he loves the form of the sort of knowing expression, or the little ellipses, little things, the little tells that let you know when someone is picking up on something. And he didn't do that, which, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not possible, but I feel like if that was the case, he probably would have done it just subtly different. And he didn't. So that seems like the most likely explanation. It's just that, she did buy it as well. And I don't know. Yeah, that is just given her background in particular in having gone through this sort of thing, like that, I think was perhaps maybe not the best choice of characters to have play that role, even though it's, kind of unavoidable from a story perspective because she's the one who's there. But yeah, it's a little hard to buy if you're, really keeping all of the characters' backgrounds in mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, given Sanji's relationship with Nami, though, I feel like she is the one who had to be there for it. And it disappoints me that she bought it, but it's also, like, on the other hand, it is also, like, in a manner of speaking, heartbreaking to see her, like, look at Sanji beat the crap out of Luffy, like the living crap out of Luffy, like that. Like Luffy and Nami have both been up for, well, they basically fought through the night to beat Cracker. Right. Luffy got a little bit of rest. Sanji's been basically as soon as he boarded Big Mom's ship, to come to Whole Cake Island, he's been emotionally a mess. Like this is like the three of them, these three Straw Hats who are in this chapter, like I can't imagine like what they're feeling after just all this fatigue emotionally and physically. I don't know.
To play devil's advocate for a second, I kind of think we're looking at this the wrong way almost too, because we're readers and we've sort of been seeing the entire story of the Vinsmokes and we've been seeing what Sanji is going through. I think it's integral for us to remind ourselves that the last time Nami saw Sanji was back on Zou before Luffy and the rest of them even got there on Dressrosa. So she hasn't seen him in a long time. And same with Luffy, too. Luffy hasn't seen him since Sanji left in Dressrosa.
It's like 2 weeks? 2 weeks it's been?
I think it's been about 2 weeks real time. Yeah, but it's still like a lot has happened throughout the course of that time. And so even in Sanji's head, where he's going through all this emotional stuff with his family, and he's sort of like understanding everything and what he has to do, and he wants to keep them sort of away from him because he doesn't want to even endanger his crew. I almost see this like Sanji trying to save his crew and not necessarily like breaking ties with them. I feel like him pushing Luffy away is his way of saying, all right, stay out of this so nobody else who I care about will get hurt, And I kind of agree with you guys. I don't think Nami picks up on any of it. I think she does genuinely believe him because of what you mentioned already, which is that like he's always been horny for Nami, for lack of a better word. I mean, he always has been.
That's probably a better word.
Well, I don't think so though, because like
lovesick, I think is a much better.
Lovesick maybe, but so to see him like this and not be completely fawning over her is something totally new to her.
Yeah. Like
from
I think
day one. I mean, literally.
Yeah, literally day one.
Her,
yeah.
So I mean, like, if I were to make an argument in that case, but it still doesn't. Like, I am still a bit disappointed. But the scene with her slapping him and her goodbye to him, I thought that was really powerful, and I rather liked it. Like I said, the last couple pages of this chapter are super painful to read. I was tearing up at my desk. It was rough.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I think I tweeted this, but this is the first time since the beginning of the time skip that I felt like there are stakes.
Yeah, totally.
I think this is probably one of the, at least in the present day, one of the most emotional scenes since the time skip. Ed, was there anything else that you want to say? I know you said a little earlier.
No, you guys have really discussed it. I like hearing from the fans on the show, which isn't really me. So I was very excited to hear what you guys had to say.
I actually really like what Alex just said with the stakes, because now when I think about it, let's just talk about Dressrosa, where it was, if we lose, the bad guy wins. But now
the princess will be sad.
Yes, but now we have, and the other princess will just cry and say, "Someone help me!" But now, yeah, we have all of these different, it's like this story arc is just a web of, well, if this happens, then this will happen, and if this doesn't happen, this might happen. It's crazy. Yeah, there really are stakes in this arc. There's a lot of things that could happen, depending on the outcome. Which we know that Luffy and Sanji will be reunited, but how?
But how and what else will come of this? Because
yes,
we're at the part in the One Piece storyline where, like, even Dressrosa, which we all have our beefs with, the outcome of Dressrosa shook the world, and changed it in some manner of speaking.
Definitely.
Yeah. To build upon what you guys were saying with Dressrosa, though, really quick, is like, I think that also speaks to this arc, just like in terms of just being a better arc, because for so much of Dressrosa, we spent time with characters who we don't really have an emotional investment in, and everybody who's in this story arc, everybody, like the Vinsmokes, who are all tied to Sanji's direct, like his blood family. You've got his whole Straw Hat crew behind him, and you have Big Mom. I mean, we were in a Yonko territory. This is the first time we've dealt with a Yonko on her own territory. So we're seeing all of these other characters, and just even beating one of the commanders is a huge feat. And that's sort of been like skimmed over. I know a lot of people didn't like the stuff in the Seducing Woods, myself included. I was really kind of annoyed by the stuff with like Brule and the mirrors and all that earlier on. But once we got into like the Cracker fight and we saw like, okay, this guy isn't messing around. He's not like this joke character. Up until about now, I'd say like the past 10 or 15 chapters have all just been really, really good, both emotional and in terms of like the action of the story. So.
I mean, just to piggyback off of what Roger was saying there. Well, first off, I think this is one of the best chapters I've read in a while, at least emotionally speaking. I don't remember feeling so sad and kind of in a similar face that Sanji has at the end there for a One Piece chapter in quite some time. So I think that's... And there was an editorial that came out a few weeks or months ago on our website about how, I forget who wrote it there, I apologize if it was you, Kyle, or not, just about how there's been less emotional impact in One Piece recently. So I like that this is kind of Oda's return to form a little bit there. I also kind of want to echo what Roger was saying is that the thing about this arc is it's been kind of inconsistent so far. Just to kind of judge it a little early on. It's had some amazing chapters. I personally am a fan of a lot of what we've seen surrounding Sanji thus far. I think it's had a lot of cool characters and cool settings and quirky things happening, but there's been a lot of slowdowns and we've kind of, been dragged away from, I think, some of the important stuff. And I think, for a lot of us and maybe a lot of our listeners as well, it's kind of taken a little bit away from the story. So I'm actually very happy to see, the stakes being laid here. I'm also a little nervous, as Kyle put it, as to what's to come, but I'm going to remain optimistic because Oda knows what he's doing. He always knows what he's doing. So I think it's time we get into the next segment. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
It's quite the discussion.
This is the anime recap for episode 762, The Delinquent Comes Home, Emperor Big Mom's Assassins. I'm your host, Sam, and today with us we have Ed. How's it going, Ed?
I'm doing all right, Sam.
And for the first time in a while, first time since I've been hosting, we have Alex.
Hey, I don't remember the last time I got on an anime recap ever. I mean, not ever, but I just remembered last time.
And we also have a friend of the podcast and YouTube sensation, Roger Space. How's it going, Roger?
It's going good. I think I haven't been on one of these anime recaps in a while, too, so I'm excited to talk about this episode.
Yeah, this is a pretty big crowd for me, so I'm not used to... Anyway, jumping into the staff credits real quick, the screenplay this week is by Tomohiro Nakayama. The episode director and storyboard artist is usually, most of the time it's the same person, and sometimes they'll be split, but this is the first time where it's two people doing both those jobs. So it's Toshinori these are new names. Toshinori Fukuzawa and Kentaro Fujita. There we go. And the animation director this week is Shuichi Ito. You guys ready to head on to the bulk of the recap?
Sure am. Good episode this week.
Yeah.
The episode opens with Wanda, Carrot, and the rest of the crew on their way to see the Cat Viper. Wanda mentions that there's a full moon, but she's glad that it's covered by clouds, which is an interesting comment. Especially considering everyone on this podcast is sort of, we've got our eyes on that moon.
It makes it, the clouds, the mist kind of makes it look like the gas is back.
Yeah, kind of. Carrot also mentions that she, like Wanda, is a king's bird, meaning that, she's able to go back and forth between working for Dogstorm and Cat Viper.
Brooke. Yeah. And no Cat Viper song.
Yeah, I was fully expecting Brooke to break into Neko Mamushino.
I was talking about this with
although
like
I did appreciate his slow, moody guitar, like something out of the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack.
Yeah, I was talking about
that was unexpected, but I really enjoyed it.
I was talking about this with Caroline, who we had on last week, and Kelly, who are very concerned of whether or not they've just like completely ditched the song, because I think this is around the time that this happened in the manga, but I'm just judging by the episode itself, I'm pretty sure they're just saving it for next episode.
More than likely.
Yeah, I can't imagine why they would just get rid of it.
Especially because Oda, I mean, he's been building this up for literally years before Cat Viper was even a character. Like the Nekomamushi song was something that existed, and he wrote the character specifically because of the song that Cho wrote. So if it doesn't end up in the anime, something's going on.
I'm sure it'll be there. Yeah. We just gotta wait.
It better be.
Brooke decides that he wants to tell the story about what happened to Sanji, telling Luffy that there was a secret event that happened 2 days before that most of the Minks don't know about. He mentions that Sanji might not come back to us, and Zoro is not annoyed by this at all. So
Luffy sort of freaks out by that, and then Luffy's freak out is like when the really cool music ends and we sort of go back into One Piece music. Luffy snaps us out of it.
So he explains that normally you can't locate Zo, you can't. A log pose will never take you there. There's no eternal pose for it. The only way they were able to get there is because they had, I think, Beppo's favorite card.
Yes.
But the Big Mom crew is able to follow Sanji's group to Zo, which is sort of a mistake on their end. And then we learn that Peckham is in fact from Zo, which we could have put two and two together.
I actually never would have imagined that would have been the case. I mean, a talking lion from an island full of talking animals? Unbelievable.
He is very distraught to see all the destruction left by Jack. Capone is coming along because they're on a mission to capture Caesar. And another thing, as we'll learn later in the episode, as we're continuing the story from last episode where Sanji and Nami and all of them were taking care of the Minks, and we see Sanji feeding everyone. This is actually just a very lived-in area, this sort of little town that they have. It just feels very alive, like people are actually coming and going. And
I like what the anime has been doing with fleshing out the Minks a little bit more as far as their day-to-day goes.
Yeah, I agree. We see Chopper and Dr. Miyagi administering the shots to sort of cure the Minks of Caesar's poison. We see Wanda exchanging clothes with Nami, so she's got that very nice purple dress. Caesar he's trying to go by the name Cedar because he doesn't want to be attributed with the good deeds that the crew is making him do. And Caesar in general is very entertaining this episode.
And all the stuff that he's done, like, does he really know? Well, when we find out later on in this episode, but like he might just be trying to hide. Besides, doesn't want to do good deeds.
And Sanji is very into the mink tradition of garchewing. He's taking every chance to get to cuddle up with all the women and saying garchew, and the men are very sad that they don't get to be included.
That was probably one of my favorite moments of the episode, actually. I think one thing about this episode that I think it did really well was that it combined comedy and action and drama and a really good cliffhanger, sort of in a way that we haven't gotten in a long time. I feel like certain episodes have been a little bit too dragged out, in my opinion, and we also had some in-canon filler bits that I thought were good. But this was a welcome return, I feel like, to the return of the
and we'll get to One Piece. And we'll get to this when we talk about the ending, but they resisted the impulse to provide a reaction to everything.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that at the end.
So we see, Peckham's and Capone arriving, and Peckham's is reuniting with his friends and his fellow minks, and Capone's just kind of standing back, being quiet. Caesar is begging for protection from Big Mom's crew because he's apparently ripped her off from some fund money. But Sanji's just like, well, we're basically done with you. We don't need you anymore. So we don't actually care what happens to you. And Caesar's trying to like sweet talk him into, fighting them because there's only two of them. We come back to the present, and Luffy's actually hoping that Sanji got in a fight with them and kicked their asses, saying that it's okay to pick a fight with an emperor because he already picked this fight with Big Mom back on Fishman Island. Brook goes along with Sanji just sort of as backup for, asking Peckham's and Capone what they're up to and what they want. And we're worried that like there's going to be a showdown, but Peckham's just starts crying and rubbing up against Sanji and thanking him and even like bowing on his hands and knees, thanking him for helping the minks and his friends and family and all them.
Capone does not do hardly any talking at all until the end of the episode.
Yeah, he shows up at the end. And he's becomes pretty interesting. He's very annoyed.
He's looming. He's looming throughout the entire episode. He's smoking on his cigar.
Wait, are we going to bypass the most important thing about the entire Peckham's Garchu scene, which is that how the heck is his mom a monkey and his dad's a dog? Like, how does that happen? How does a lion come out of a monkey and a dog?
We talked about this at the time in the manga, but we're not sure if any of those are actually his family members.
Because
I think it might have just been
animals.
Well, I mean, they could be mixed within the crowd. I mean, we have no idea at this point.
It could also be Fishman rules, where
that's what I was thinking.
Doesn't matter at all.
True. Yeah.
So Peckham's explains that they basically have two tasks. He and Capone is that they're both trying to get Caesar back, and there's also another thing that they're there for, that they're on a mission for. But he says that, like, you know what, I want to let you go. I'm gonna just tell Mom that you guys got away, and I'm just gonna pretend like nothing happened. And Capone is just like, okay, you're being a real wimp here, and he decides to, pull his hand out and just shoot Capone on, not shoot Capone. He's shooting Peckham's with like a little machine gun from his hand, taking.
But they don't show that.
Right.
That is like they're doing a good job of hiding that. They also do a good job of, it goes on for a really long time, and it's very brutal, and it just ends. It ends the episode.
Yeah. Well, doesn't it end? It ends in this really cool shot to the sky.
Yeah, the swirl of smoke coming out of the forest.
The canopy. Yeah, that was such a cool ending.
Mm-hmm. The animation in that final sequence too looked like really good. That looked like something out of one of the One Piece films, with the lighting on Sanji's face and Brook's face.
That like sunset looking lighting.
Yeah. The art direction in this episode was really great. My only beef with the episode, like at all, is that Brook was drawn a little bit off model, but that's it.
Yeah, so that brings us to the end of the episode. Do you guys have any overall thoughts?
I should have saved mine.
It was a slow episode, as you can tell by like how quickly we went through all of that. But I actually felt like for once it contributed to it, in that it felt moody, and Capone was sort of looming in the background for a lot of it. It really started to get going like about 25% of the way through. It started off slower, but then it sort of built a mood, and as Alex said, it was a little. I mean, the art was pretty much there. I didn't notice too much of that like you did, Alex, but I'm not an artist, so yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Roger?
I was going to say pretty much all the same things. I feel like I've been watching the anime week to week, doing reviews for my channel for like a long time now. And so I noticed like all these weird little art things. And this was the first time in weeks that I watched the whole episode and I didn't go, oh, that really looks off model, or that looks really bad, right until you brought up the Brook thing. And then I was thinking in my head like, oh yeah, Brook did look off a couple times. But on the whole, I feel like the animation was really good. The color work was amazing in that final scene. Like I said, I thought the animation quality of that final scene was great. And some of the things they did with it, like you said, how they weren't showing like the little machine gun hand coming out of Capone, how it was just like his hand and then the reflections and certain shots that they were using, it really added to like the drama of that sequence. And I honestly thought that scene was better in the anime than it was in the manga, which isn't always necessarily going to be the case. So,
not most of the time, frankly.
No,
I feel like this episode and last week's episode were like very impressively on model throughout. Like I didn't really notice the Brook thing like you guys did.
Doing things not like the way they always do them, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
I also wanted to point out too, I feel like the animation team is really taking into consideration like the source material they're working with. And what I mean by that is like they're foreshadowing things that are coming in the manga in a really kind of subtle way that it's not spoiling anything for the anime viewers. Mm-hmm. And obviously it was all in Oda's dialogue, but I think kudos to the voice actors, because there's a lot of that in there that I'm pretty sure some of these voice actors probably read the manga and they know what's going to happen next. And obviously the animation team knows because they have to direct this stuff, weeks in advance. So I thought they did a really good job too with foreshadowing the stuff with Caesar Clown and his connection to Big Mom and the research and the stuff with Sanji. It was really, really good.
Yeah, my general thoughts. The thing I liked the most about this episode is just how kind of just how lived in the space feels. Like this, you really have a sense of physical space of where these characters are standing around, and you just kind of like you're just kind of basking in their little interactions and just the fact that they're just sort of hanging out for most of the episode, which is something that I don't know. Like it's just something I kind of always appreciate in these slower Shonen Jump shows, because obviously they're going to be slow. They're not going to get a lot of plot out every episode, but I like it when you can just sort of sit back and then just sort of enjoy being in the moment, which is what I think makes slower stuff work.
The character interaction stuff, just while like them just acting low key and just sort of hanging out, is definitely something welcome if you've been only following the anime and had to deal with watching Dressrosa where everybody's, basically on pins and needles the entire time.
Yeah, everyone's on pins and needles. The only things that can really cut to are reactions and people running away. And
yeah, so this is you kind of kill for this kind of stuff after that.
Yeah, and I feel like this arc leaves a lot of room to grow for the animators too, because it's all done in flashbacks, so they could add in a whole bunch of stuff. They know, the confines of what they're working with, and they could add like extra little things with the minks. Like we got a lot of that during the fight with Jack. We got a lot of like extra scenes with Inuarashi and Dogstorm and Cat Viper. You know what? I'm just gonna call him Inuarashi because I'm used to it. I like Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. I'm sorry, people. I like those names. But yeah, I think they really did a good job with like adding extra material with those characters, and like you said, the episode didn't feel like it was dragging on for a long time. I feel like even though there was a smaller amount of material than I think a lot of people would come to expect from a full-on anime episode, again, it didn't feel short. It felt like the pacing was at least there, and I understand now why they saved the Peckham's reveal for this week instead of using it last week. Though ultimately, I feel like that makes last week's episode kind of worse in retrospect, but oh well.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be just this arc in the anime has been like really, really good, aside from like a few episodes in the middle of what we've gotten so far.
That was like 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. But it started obviously very strong, and I feel like it's picked up again, and next week's preview looks really good. So
they can't all be winners, but this week was pretty good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So I think that means we can get on to the next segment. You ready, you guys?
Sure thing.
Ready as I'll ever be.
This is the Piece Together segment where we take your questions, comments, and theories, and we talk about them. This week, let's start with Madeline, who said that it was mentioned last week that Sanji having a 2-part backstory opened up the possibility of others having the same thing happen. I just want to point out that Sanji was not the first to have this happen. Luffy also had a 2-part backstory with Shanks in the hundreds of chapters. Later, we get his backstory with his brother. I just want to correct that in the manga, that was not a backstory. That was just the beginning. In the anime, you were correct, though. In any case, he has a question. Have you guys ever put down One Piece and then picked it up again after a long break? This would probably apply more to when you would have to marathon to catch up to the series. I know I had to drop it for a year or so in the middle of Fishman Island, so I just wanted to know if you guys had similar experiences. Anyways, you guys' puns are excellent, and I'm rooting for you.
I don't know if I ever stopped reading it for more than like a month. Sometimes like when I was in school, I would lose track of it. But I always came back to it in a relatively short order. I don't know if I've ever taken a huge break from it, but frankly, that period from 2006 to 2009, which was the time of when I had started reading it, but we hadn't started the show yet, that was some of the best time in One Piece. So
you started at the right time, man.
Yeah, I mean, when I caught up in the manga, it was just at the end of Enies Lobby. I guess maybe at the beginning or some of the middle parts of Thriller Bark, but I was still reading those week to week most of the time.
Yeah, I never stopped reading week to week. Once I got on week to week, I would never stop. Even when I went overseas, like to Greece and stuff, I would go to an internet cafe and I needed to check it out. But I know Steven dropped it for a little bit.
Yeah, it was.
Was that a gasp?
I don't know if dropped it is a good way to phrase it, because I still was like skimming over what was happening, but
this was when you had stopped translating for a while.
Yeah, and I did not pick it up again until I got hired to do it. Translating obviously, I think the Impel Down kind of wore me. It wore me out, and I was also just kind of I don't know. I was going through a change in my life, and I was definitely like, okay, some of these old things that I'm clinging to, I have to move on from. And
never, Stephen.
Part of that was like certain things that I was doing online, and I was just like, okay, this is over with, and like the weekly hassle of going through translating, as in text form, obviously was. Just kind of too much at the time. And I I don't think it was until the end of Paramount War that I got fully back into reading every chapter once they started doing the Luffy flashback stuff. So a lot of the war stuff I just kind of skimmed over. It was like, okay, who showed up, who fought, etc.
Yeah, I started with Arlong Park actually in the English Shonen Jump when I was in junior high, and I read weekly up through halfway through Alabasta, and this is probably blasphemy to say, but I just was not feeling it at all at the time. I don't know what it was. I just was not enjoying Alabasta, and I stopped for a long time. And when I finally got back into it and I was reading it week to week, it was already Thriller Bark. And so from Thriller Bark on, I've been reading it week to week and I haven't stopped. But I'm actually grateful that happened, because I feel if I had continued reading and I was reading Skypiea week to week, I would not have had the same enjoyment out of that story arc as I have now. I love Skypiea. Skypiea is probably one of my all-time favorite arcs of One Piece, and I feel like I would not have loved it if I was reading it week to week, which I sort of feel like that's how I feel about Dressrosa now. Having stepped off of it for a while was right when I started doing YouTube reviews, and I was reviewing that week to week, and it was the same stuff over and over again. Luffy's, delaying his powers. Rebecca's crying again, and I think reading it week to week and catching up to it week to week like that kind of hampered my enjoyment of that arc overall. And I'm glad that I don't have that with Skypiea. I'm glad that Skypiea I was able to marathon in a week. I just bought all the volumes, I marathoned everything, and I just fell in love with it. So, yeah.
I'm not going to ask when you were in junior high. We could move on to the next question unless there's anyone who really wants to tackle that one. All right, next one comes from Amy, who said she just started rewatching the anime from episode 1 and also reading the current chapters. And the contrast has me wondering, does anyone miss how the original version of Luffy handled people's problems? He was always a simple kind of goof, but it feels like it didn't take him all that long to truly understand things. She gives a lot of examples here to go with that, but I'm sure you guys know around what she's talking about here. Do you? I kind of feel like he's still the same character. I don't know if anyone has.
Luffy's smarter. He's smarter than he used to be. But I think that's because he understands the people that he's talking to better, just from having spent so much time with them.
Yeah, I think he's he's better for the wearer. I don't know.
Perceptive.
Yeah, he's a little more
perceptive. Emotional.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's grown too, having seen his brother die. I mean, that's that does stuff to you. Yeah. And I do feel like that's made him grow as a person. So,
well, as far as he knew, it was the second brother to die.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I never really thought he was having a character change until there was this moment on Punk Hazard where he like has this smile on his face, and he turns around and he says, "We're gonna take down the 4 emperors." And I was like, "Whoa, Luffy developed a plan." And that was the first time I thought, "Wow, he's thinking on his own there."
That was the plan. We're gonna beat him. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Next question comes from Hatem, whose name I'm definitely mispronouncing. He has a few questions. I'll ask this one. When do you guys think that Jinbei will show up again? It's funny because we were saying that for a while, then he did show up, and now he's been gone for all this time. And what do you think happened to him with Big Mom? And it's been like 10, 15 chapters since we've seen him, I think. Yeah.
I think he's sleeping with the fishes, and then he's going to wake up and be like, "Oh, I should help Luffy."
I kind of hope we get him next week. I feel like we need to step away from Luffy and Sanji for a bit now they've had this moment. And I kind of want next week to just be like, meanwhile, with Brook and Pedro and what's going on with Jinbei and Peckham's with his dead body floating there with the whale sharks. It's like, I feel like there's so many loose ends during this arc and important loose ends that maybe next week will be the time to like sort of wrap some of that stuff up. So I'm hoping that maybe we get an answer to that next week. As for what happened to Jinbei, I am of the mindset that he lost his top knot. That he sort of like lost his pride or his manliness or whatever you want to call it, like whatever the right word would be. But I think that's what he lost, and then he had to chop off his top knot. And then that'll also give him like a new look for when he's finally with the crew.
All right, this next question comes from Blair. And I have a feeling that a lot of you are going to make a loud groaning or angry sound from the first sentence here.
Try me.
Yeah, I finally begun to watch Dragon Ball Super, and this is the first time hearing the Japanese dub, and she thinks it is cringeworthy. But was I not right? I know my podcast crew, and I knew they were not going to like that. But she said she's going to watch all of it, and she did recognize Mayumi Tanaka's voice and got excited. But it got me thinking. Should Luffy's voice get deeper as he gets older? Goku's voice definitely does not match his exterior, which she supposes is supposed to be funny.
Wrong.
And as One Piece progresses and Luffy is an old man, should he still sound the same?
Yes.
Yeah,
He should.
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Because he's like that's who he is. Like that's who he is. Like the entire reason.
It's why they don't look significantly different 2 years later. It's not like he went out of his way to draw them like super buff and
right.
Well,
Yeah,
to be
I
fair,
don't know
Luffy has like a 12-pack too.
Yeah, but I just mean like he didn't do like a bunch
Right.
of really out of left field like super obnoxious changes to how they look just in order to make them seem older. Like it's important that the characters are always recognizable as those characters.
Except for
And
Frankie.
How
Yeah.
much do they think these characters are going to age that their voices would change? Like, are we going to get an epilogue where we're talking to 40-year-old Luffy?
Also,
Didn't you hear in the world of One Piece YouTubers, everyone thinks there'll be another time skip?
Oh,
Oh
dear.
boy.
no, I think at the very, very, very end of the series, you could have something like a Gurren Lagann kind of moment where, you know, it goes further into the future. The thing is, Mayumi Tanaka, by the time this ends, will sound like the 80-year-old she will be, or 90-year-old. So being an old man doesn't sound all that different from being an old Mayumi Tanaka. She has, I think her voice is especially good for playing even, you know, an older guy. I feel like I've heard it's not so out of left field for me.
It's
Oh, no, yeah,
it's less out of place than Nozawa's voice.
I agree. I understand the out of placeness of Nozawa.
See, I think you get. I don't know. Like that's the voice that I knew. Like I knew the Ian James Corlett voice, and then I knew my Nozawa. For me, Sean Schemmel came like way after. Like, and I had beef at the time, but now I'm like whatever. Tanaka's voice, like she can do an old man. She did old Krillin.
The weird thing was, at least with Masako Nozawa, I didn't even when I first watched DBZ in Japanese, I didn't even know it was a woman at first. So
Yeah.
I think kind of going back, I'm like, wow, it didn't even bother me as a kid until, you know, if it was the answer to a trivia question that the voice was a female that I even realized it. One, it would be really funny if we kind of get like Gurren Lagann ending where we get a little bit more of a time jump and we get an older Luffy. Love to see if Colleen would still voice Luffy.
Yeah, of course, right?
No, it would just be like doing like a very comedic adult Luffy voice.
Hey guys,
Say,
what's
hey,
up?
it's me. I'm all grown up now.
I ate 6 packs of smokes this morning.
I would love to see that.
That'd be good.
All right, next question comes from Jesse, who says, Happy Halloween. May you all receive more treats than tricks this year. I tricked them all to come on this podcast, so already too late. So question for Steven. Jesse has seen online, so it must be true, that Nami's Japanese nickname, Dorobo Neko, can be translated as husband stealer, which seems appropriate for this arc. Is this an alternate translation? Something you can expand on? Obviously, Nami is mad at Sanji right now, but could this double meaning hint at her playing a greater role in his rescue?
No, as to the last thing, but yeah, the phrase "Doromoneko" means like a, it's we call it the cat burglar. It's kind of like anyone who kind of slinks in and makes off with something that they have no right to. And so, yeah, you can use it as a husband stealer. That's a pretty funny translation. And, depending on the context, you could definitely use that in a translation if the scene is right. But obviously in this case, not really. But yeah, that's a good observation. I like that.
Jesse also notes that the last 3 Funimation voyages were all released really close together, so it looks like they're trying to play maybe catch up. Combined with this fancy new Crunchyroll deal, is it possible that this may be a One Piece dub cast? What I think they mean there is a simul dub. We talked about this way back, and from what I get from various sources, that seems to be, I'm going to say, a mammoth task to handle.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. So I think it's unlikely. Although I definitely think they are trying to catch up as much as possible.
Yeah. I think part of the reason that they didn't do that they might be shying away from doing that for One Piece is just the humongous voice cast and all the people that they would have to get back like every week.
So Jake has an interesting question. I'm going to word it slightly differently than he did. He asked, is Sanji going to lose his hands? Probably not, but let's suppose he does. And then he says, Law attaches new ones, a la Monet and the Toad Goats. If then, what kind of hands do you want Sanji to have?
Chainsaws for hands.
Maybe Frankie could maybe make him like all the like robot hands that have all the kitchen utensils in them, and then he could be like the ultimate chef.
Maybe he could have robot
Swiss
devil
Army Man?
hands, and then he could play the fiddle.
I want to have the clamps from Futurama.
Clamps.
All right, I think that concludes our emails for this week. We got a bunch more, but we have a lot this week, so let's get into some Reddit, Stephen.
Okay, we'll start with Nivers, who let's see if anyone knows any of these that they can actually use as an example.
I'm looking it up now.
Which of your local propositions would each of the Straw Hats be for or against this election?
You could Google this. There's like 53 in California or something?
Yeah, I got a big old book on it.
We have a local city proposition here in San Diego on a new football stadium, which is drawn quite a lot of ire on either side. That. Yeah, especially since the Chargers tried to move to LA last year and then got shut down by the rest of the owners. So that's an interesting one. Who would want to be for? I think Nami would be for it if she could somehow be a part of the party that was going to earn all of the extra cash from the extra taxes and stuff like that. But I don't know.
God, people didn't want us to talk politics, but we're talking about straw hat propositions here.
All that we have in Illinois is the Safe Roads Amendment, which is really just a giveaway for construction interests. So I guess Frankie would be for that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, in California, we have Prop 60, which requires the use of condoms in pornographic films. And I think that Sanji would be for it, because I think he would want to know that all his favorite porn stars and idols would be safe in their sexual endeavors.
And we know he has those because Chopper discovered them.
Discovered a giant hentai collection, yep.
Anyone else? I can't find my propositions at the moment.
I voted today.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So I can tell you right off the bat.
Right?
We didn't have propositions. We had questions.
So it was like a quiz.
It's like a test. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got them all right, so I think we're good. But they were basically in regards to like if a member I think one of them was if somebody is on the city council for like more than 3 years, then they have to reapply or something like that. It's very like bureaucratic and not fun like the condom one.
I don't think we have any this year, if that's possible. New York usually has some, but I'm searching and nothing's coming up.
Okay, well, we can move on then.
So they would all approve nothing. Anyway, go ahead.
Sanji Vin Lung Cancer says...
Best name.
That's a very spooky Halloween name.
Yeah. As hard as it is to believe, I've only ever cried once at One Piece, and that one episode happened to be a filler. You know that one where Robin was Anne Franking in that girl's attic in Tequila Wolf, and her paintings got stepped on.
That's the best new verb.
That is an awful verb.
The feels were so real. Anyways, were there any filler episodes that had a significant effect on you guys that you didn't expect from non-canon material? What were they?
I cried a lot. I cried a lot during the Apis arc. It was so painful.
I know.
It was like
the memory loss filler. Memory loss filler filled me with rage.
I know. Zach always cried anytime he watched an episode of the Garlic Jr. saga.
Shut up.
Bitch and moan for days.
It's awful. It's so bad.
I really liked the post-Alabasta filler with Chopper because it just had more moments with him and Dr. Kureha. It was nice. Nothing nothing crying, but it was something tender.
The post Thriller Bark with Brooke was I actually really like that one too.
Mm-hmm. I think that's probably
very similar.
That's probably, if not like the best filler episode of One Piece.
Can we move on?
Nobody cried
about filler or anything.
Nobody cried over Daddy the Father.
Well, Daddy the Father's canon.
He's almost that's
semi-canonical, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
nice try, Steven. I know how much filler you've seen, and I know that was a deep pull for you.
Did anyone cry for that crew of animals during the pedo filler?
Stop.
Okay.
You know what I cried at? I cried at that we were finally given an opportunity for Luffy and Law to fight, and they didn't use their devil fruit powers. What the hell was that about? What was that?
You pissed Roger.
That's filler.
Only in filler can Zoro cut steel before he defeats Mr. One.
So
That's right.
Ichiban Kenshin, friend of the show, Ichiban Kenshin, says, you guys were talking about how Sanji will not leave until he knows that Zeph is safe. This got me thinking, what do you guys think if Zeph, Patty, and Carne just busted down the door to the chapel as Sanji is getting married and going, I heard you were getting married. Where's our invitations? Then badassery ensues with Zeph fighting against Judge and Sanji against all of his brothers. I think that Zeph is still as strong as his younger self in the Grand Line, if not stronger. This way, it would solidify how much better of a father Zeph is for Sanji. Thoughts? Keep up the amazing podcast. And Steven, loving those puns. By the way, there's the one in the next chapter that I was at least as proud of as Calicoach. So look forward to that.
It's definitely the mouse.
I would love to see a wedding turn into a big schmoz.
A schmoz?
What is that Yiddish? I don't recognize that.
Like even Zach doesn't know that word.
No, it's wrestling carny.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what it is.
Just it doesn't really have.
I'm not that
definitive
great with
ending.
Yiddish, Alex. Okay.
Let me finish. It just there's no definitive ending, and just everyone just starts fighting each other. Like I just want to see people just breaking bottles over people's heads just constantly at a wedding. It'd be funny. I don't think Zeph is as strong as he used to be. I think he even said that himself. I mean, Geen was able to take him down. So, Geen.
I forgot about that. Okay, I guess we can move on then.
All right. Brave Sabo says this chapter was better than I expected. For me, it was a masterpiece. Every page, I felt like I was getting stabbed in the heart. It hurt my soul. So my question is, were you guys satisfied with how the fight between Luffy and Sanji turned out?
Stab to the heart. I said it's an episode title.
Yes, I like it.
I'm satisfied because I like that. I think a lot of people are like, well, Luffy fought Zoro before, and it was just them. It was stupid. No, this was Luffy choosing not to fight. So I thought it was definitely we talked about in the manga.
That
recap.
chapter
It's
was
just-
also called Luffy versus Zoro. So this is the third time we've had a Luffy versus crew member. Is that? But that was just such a lame fighting.
Yeah.
Luffy versus Usopp is like one of the best chapters in the series. This is a very good chapter. It's just that Luffy versus Zoro is just
Hey, it could have been very similar if Luffy wasn't able to digest all those biscuits. It would have been the same fight.
accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's next?
I would say, okay.
go ahead.
Tarek says, it bugs me that Luffy and Nami apparently don't remember that Peckham's told them the enemy knows about the Baradier and won't hesitate to use it against Sanji. That was in chapter 815. So that's a possible point against, Oda's handling of this, I suppose. I'd forgotten about that.
I mean, Luffy probably also forgot about that. But,
yeah, that's true.
Nami is the one whose ignorance is kind of
a little more questionable.
Yeah, through this whole chapter. I mean, it's still a good chapter, but that come on.
Yeah. Black Northwind says, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is the probability that Aruj might show up in this arc? I'm going to say it's about a 2.
I was going to say 3.
Yeah, I'll go with 2.
He's still recuperating, right?
Out of what?
Out of thin air, because he'd be dropping from the sky. Yeah.
No, I meant 2
1 to
out
10.
of what? Out of 10?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1
Did
to
he
10.
say 10? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Now, how about a scale of 1 to 14? 1 being the lowest degree of likelihood, and 14 being absolute metaphysical certitude. How likely is it?
Wow. I'm gonna say a 1. Like, I don't think we're getting any more new characters this arc. There's already so many. Like, we haven't even seen we have Jinbei and Pedro and Brook and Chopper and Carrot to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Not happening.
Yeah. Okay. Liquid
I
Gaimon.
think Bonnie is Luffy's mom.
Liquid Gaimon wants to know, what would the Straw Hats dress up as for Halloween?
I think we got a lot of this question. I saw.
Well, let's
look at the
go to
color
a couple
spreads.
Color spreads, yeah.
Yeah. Frankie is I have him looking at it right now. Frankie is a Frankenstein.
That one's the
course.
easiest one.
Yeah.
All right,
Usopp's
well-
Wolf, Big Bad Wolf.
Well, I think we should do what if it was 2016? What would their Halloween costumes?
No, we got another
Yeah,
question
I think-
on. We got another question on Twitter that said, "What One Piece characters would they dress up for for Halloween?" Which
That's
I think
a
is a
question.
cool twist on it. And Ed, when you get to that, just read that person's name because I don't remember who's in it.
Okay.
I think it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let's go to Vinsmoke VV. I never expected Luffy's hunger strike. Do you think he's really not going to budge, or do you think he'll at least go find Brook and Pedro? I miss those two. Also, at first, I thought Sanji was putting up the act to make his crew stay out of his family problems, but after seeing him cry, I'm worried he might actually be giving up hope of returning. What do you think?
We'll see. There you go.
Do you think Sanji has a plan here, or do you think he has given up?
I honestly don't think he's. Well, here's the thing. Sanji's usually the man with the plan. He's the Hannibal of the One Piece A team. But in this case, he's totally I'm pretty sure he's just riding this out. He's got to do it. Man's got to do what a man's got to do. And if that includes, marrying some chick, then
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I
No,
no.
I agree with Alex. I don't think he knows where he's going with this, but I think he just knows he has to do this. I don't think he's giving up hope of returning. I think he's just trying to play this out. I think someone mentioned in the chapter, he's got to do this alone, he thinks.
Mhm.
What's next?
Yeah. Z Kenpachi 3 has a question. I'm going to kind of abridge this a little bit, but points out, I have heard a complaint about the Big Mom arc that Big Mom's power is too similar to Gecko Moria, notably the homies and the zombies having a lot in common. And Kenpachi is wondering, maybe is this possible that it's not Oda reusing ideas, but it has been planned that essentially Moria has certain aspects that kind of match Big Mom's situation. He has these zombie generals that are similar to Whitebeard's commanders. Is it possible that he basically took inspiration from the four emperors in terms of constructing his crew, or is this just Oda being repetitive?
I think it really shows the difference in ambition and ability between warlords and emperors. Like, Moria is such a weak guy compared to an emperor. Like, he has this power, and he takes dead bodies and reanimates them with parts with the shadow of a living person. He does it because he's lazy and he wants to put others to work in becoming, king of the pirates. Big Mom, on the other hand, is trying to bring all races together to make them the same and sort of bring them all together to and this gigantism stuff that she's working on to make everyone be at her level. It really shows just the difference in she has extremely grandiose visions, and I haven't even thought about how similar their powers are because their ambitions are so different and the way they use them is so different that honestly hadn't occurred to me that much.
A big difference is who is Gecko Moria without Dr. Hogback? Like, he doesn't have an army without Hogback. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true, I think a lot of the stuff too about the structure. I mean, the powers are one thing, but the kind of structure of the army, talking about the zombie generals and stuff, that's kind of just part of the structure that Oda has set up in terms of the scale that he works on. Is that okay? You have to have a big bad, and then you have to have a couple of other agents who are notable, they have to be characters with names and personalities. And then there's also just an army because, we're talking about nations and, giant sort of world spanning empires and stuff like that. So there have to be grunts too. And so it's just kind of a natural occurrence, and an outcome of that you're going to wind up with kind of similar looking structures for the bad guys' operations. So that's my thoughts.
Big Mom is being a lot more resourceful with her powers too, because I think if you were given the soul fruit power, I don't think your mind would go to, oh yeah, I'm going to do, I'm going to rip the soul out of a person, I'm going to stuff it in that rain cloud, and I'm going to control the weather. That doesn't that takes a certain level of creativity,
Mm-hmm.
You could say Big Mom's a lot of things, but you can't fault her for a lack of creativity.
No.
True.
Yeah. What's next?
We'll move on to Millard Fillmore 13. Oh, my savior, Millard Fillmore. Please tell me you guys noticed Jermouse 66 behind Jermeow 66. Also, who do you think Sanji is going to fight this arc? My gut reaction at first was Ichiji, since he's being built up as the cool, strong sibling. But with the Cosette incident, I feel like Sanji really needs to get back at Niji. But I also think he needs to beat up Judge as well. At the same time, I'm not sure I see him winning against his whole family all at once. Nevertheless, I feel like this chapter is going to make the payoff feel so much better once Sanji finally gets his cuffs off and starts kicking ass.
I agree. I do also want to see Luffy beat some of them up, though. I think after this chapter in particular. Because I think it's Steven, you said it during the manga recap, they're living in their own world. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think they think Luffy probably is, weak. So I'd like Luffy to step up and prove them wrong. I live for any opportunity in One Piece where that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And also I love Jermouse 66.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Or double.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about this arc, like how the matchups are going to work. Because normally, like, it seems pretty clear during which arc, like, who's going to fight who. Whereas this arc, like, if you're thinking about who's there and how many officers they have to face, you've got Ichiji, you've got Niji, you've got Yonji, even though Sanji kind of already took care of him. You've got Judge, all the Charlotte kids, right? The commanders, and Big Mom.
Well, the question is, who's the big bad here?
Exactly, right. We don't really
Capone.
know.
Is it the one with big in her
Capone,
name?
right.
Yeah, it's Capone. It could be. It could. I mean, he's
up to something.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
doing shit
for
behind
sure.
the scenes. I don't think he's the big bad, but I think
I think he's gonna fight Peckham's again somehow.
Yeah, Capone kind of feels like the little finger of this arc, or like the if anybody has seen Luke Cage at all, he kind of feels like Shades to me. Like that's
I
what I'm
haven't
getting
seen it,
from
but
Capone.
that seems like the appropriate name I would give.
Yeah.
Yeah, Capone's definitely got something up his sleeve.
Yeah, there's like a lot of undercurrents in this arc that are super exciting and interesting. And I think part of the reason why it's been a little frustrating, especially in the Seducing Woods, is I just want to get there already. Let's get to the good stuff. But at the same time, I think building up the hype for it a little bit probably will help in the end. So again, I'll trust Oda. I think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. We'll move on to Steve Hump 85, who says, "Wow, the feels. It really shows the depth and scope of Oda's dramatic storytelling. I mean, come on. Sugar going out of her way to help out Jabra and his pals. I teared up." And also, good timing here. P.S. Congrats to Rogers Base for hitting 100,000 on YouTube. Happy Halloween, OPP.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Roger.
Mm-hmm. And our last comment on Reddit. I'm going to read this one. I think this is a good devil's advocate, I suppose. The hot take corner. Orange Shades
The hot
says,
take corner? Is that our new
Yes.
segment?
"So disappointing. Third time's the charm, right? Nami, Robin, now Sanji. Can't wait for the next Straw Hat to decide to leave the crew. Let's spin the roulette wheel of story padding and used up ideas to find out who's next. Will it be Chopper telling Luffy he wants more cotton candy? How about Frankie saying he wants to build a bigger boat? Maybe we can have Brooke decide to be a real musician. Anything to get those cheap feels, right? You can't keep having crew members threaten to leave when you know at the end of the day they won't. There's no narrative stakes to this, so now we just have to slog through another 20 chapters of BS until someone finds a way to fix it. Goddamn, I cannot be the only one who hates
I
this."
hope that's a reference to 20 minutes of BS.
Me too. If it was, then thank you. Thank you very much.
That's the novelization that we're working on.
20
chapters of-
20 chapters of BS.
I think we've already given basically the counterpoint to this, but we've given them space for their grievance.
I mean, why don't we could play some devil's advocate here too? I mean, I think we all like this chapter, so I mean, I could understand where Mr. Shades is coming from. Wow, Mr. Shades is back. This was Capone who wrote this. That's the problem.
Well, I think it doesn't narrative stakes. I disagree with it having no narrative stakes, because at this point, like, we're finding a little bit more about Sanji and getting to know him even more personally than we ever did. And to me, I think that's completely worth it. And if we get more of these, more of this kind of thing for all the other Straw Hats, I think the story is going to be better for it. Now, as far as this treading, old ground, I think we definitely covered that in the manga recap.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not like I'm enjoying the way that Oda is executing this story development. I said that I really liked this chapter in terms of just the kind of heart-wrenching stuff, the gut-wrenching stuff that it puts us through and puts these characters through. And it's always impressive when he flexes his muscles like that. But I'm still like the sort of the devil conscience on my right shoulder who pops up is still just not convinced that this is something that is totally new and different. Like I still have not gotten to that point where I'm like, okay, no, this is a totally, this is not just a retread of Nami or Robin. I mean, there are little things that are different around the edges, but a part of me is still not fully convinced that this is necessary at this point. Part of that, hey, all these arcs, it's not like there's big shockers about, oh, Luffy's going to beat the bad guy. There are definitely predictable elements just baked into the way that the story is told. But I think we accept those as a given a little more readily than, kind of trying to play the like crew allegiance card. It's I think it's something that is most effective when it is not overused, and that's the thing I think that this person is taking grievance with. And I don't know, like I'm not fully convinced yet.
I think I understand where he's coming from, in where he thinks that Oda's trying to exploit the same trope for feel like to make the reader emote,
right,
or to make his characters emote. But at the same time, I think, even though it's something that's been used thrice now, unlike being stuck in a building, I think this brings out a lot of really interesting reactions in the characters. Not necessarily emotions, but you're like, oh, how will Luffy handle this? Or if you put Sanji in this situation, how would he handle it? And I think what makes a good story, beyond whether or not the same kind of narrative is used repeatedly, is how your characters react in certain situations. And I believe that Oda did a really good job here, putting Luffy in a very different, the same and yet a very different circumstance, and putting Sanji in a different circumstance as well, or at least trying circumstances, and seeing how they'd react. And I am pleasantly surprised about how well it was executed in this chapter. Like I said last week, I want to hold back my opinion of this device as a whole until it kind of comes to a conclusion, because it could be messed up. It could also be, for Mr. Shades, who writes here, it may end up paying off at the end of the day. So I think got to wait and see a little bit, but I'm optimistic.
Okay.
Is that it?
That was a lot of words.
That's it.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the words, Ed. Anyway,
I get the best words.
I never claimed that. Ed, it's time to
Piece the tweet.
What kind of words did we get from fans this week?
Well, our first one is actually from our very own Greg.
Whoa.
And if you want to respond to this, tweet at Ochimusha108. Last call. For One Piece's 20th anniversary, what kinds of 20th anniversary themed goods would you like to see?
Still a tough question, but
I'm assuming this means on the website. Or
I think
merch.
all sorts of good.
Yeah, I think any merch that you'd.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I like my calendars and stuff, but I'd like to see like high quality, large prints or framed things of One Piece art. That's what I like.
Or even like a color walk, like a bigger collection. Or that's not super necessary, I guess.
You know what they?
Yeah.
They used to have these things, these statues of famous moments in One Piece. They had a couple. I think they had like approximately 3 of them. There's one where Luffy's breaking Kuro's claws with the rock. There's one where Luffy's getting his hat from Shanks. I think it was called the Polystone Collection or something like that. I'd like to see more stuff like that, where it's a figure or a statue, but it depicts like a very famous scene in One Piece. I think that'd be a cool thing.
I think 20 is the drinking age in Japan. So like they should really, get some cross promotional stuff, get some Jack D. Daniels in there.
One Piece sponsored by Bud Light Lime.
Boy, you've been waiting for that one for a while, huh, Steven? Waiting to bust out your Jack D. Daniels.
No, I just made that up.
What? Not bad. Not bad.
Anyone else have any One Piece merch they would dream of?
Oh, and naturally, of course, more Django and full body stuff, because duh.
Yeah, I need a Jack the Drought statue. That's all I want.
I'm sure you'll get it. That's
I hope
random
so.
spicy foods for Alex to review.
Dallinger POP.
My dream would be if they did a translation of the One Piece trading card game, because I'd love to play the shit out of that.
Oh, why don't we just put you in a time machine and take you back to 2004?
Yeah, I think they did. They did.
tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
know.
And you could play a card of a character that didn't appear in the show. It's a giant whale, and he's called Raboon.
Oh.
There's actually
Never
one.
forget.
I don't know if it's merch, but like hardcover color. What were they? The Kanzen bonds like kind of thing for One Piece would be really cool.
Ooh.
Um,
in English.
Yes, especially in English, but even in Japanese, I think that would. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And they are coming out with the color versions. I know digitally, so I can't imagine it being that difficult. And it would give Viz an opportunity to change Zolo to Zoro. Anyway.
So there are a lot of questions about Sanji this week, so we won't
What?
be able to get the time to answer all of them. But I do. Your opinions of Sanji changed much since the year of Sanji began, and if so, why? As we near the end of the year, 10 months in.
Yeah, I definitely we're going to ask this on the website as well when we get to the end of the year, but that's a good question.
I always knew where Sanji's loyalties stood. I mean, to say like, oh, I didn't realize Sanji had such a tragic, past. All the Straw Hats have, and he already did have one, but now there's more. There's even more tragedy. I think of one thing I've learned, that how much Sanji values being, I'd say, like being an important part of a group, whether it be cooking, at the Baratier, or being the cook for the Straw Hat Pirates, somewhere where he's appreciated. He's not, treated like shit for the most part.
Ed, was the question, how has Sanji changed, or how has our opinions?
Your
of Sanji
opinions
changed?
of Sanji since the beginning of the year.
Oh, I don't know that my opinion has changed at all, but I will say that I like, we've always been talking about how we want to return to like cool Sanji, Mr. Prince Sanji, and we haven't really got that in this arc, but it has been a different side of Sanji. It's been a Sanji who is sort of tormented and in pain, and he's taking things seriously. Like he's not a joke character who is just swooning over the ladies. Like, in fact, it seems like Oda has just sort of transferred those jokes onto his brothers now in the scenes where he does them. And while it's not necessarily like the exact, it's a painful Sanji in a different way. I think it's a type of painful that I am more comfortable with than just seeing him be Mr. Nosebleed. So I'm really looking forward to his moment of triumph whenever that is and whatever that happens to be, because he really deserves it.
Does anyone else feel like this hasn't been the year of Sanji? I've been feeling like it's more like the year about Sanji, and Sanji hasn't really been a main character in his own story.
He hasn't been doing much.
He doesn't have like agency in his story. He's just kind of moving along through it. I don't know.
Well,
I
maybe that's where
feel
we're going from here. Maybe he has to do something to make this arc move.
And to be
I kinda
fair,
feel
when Oda made like the year of Sanji, I don't think his year started in January and ended in December.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I kind of feel like this is going to be a multiple year long kind of thing. Like the year of Luigi when Nintendo did that was like 2 years. So I think it's going to be the same thing. I think next year is pretty much going to be the year of Sanji too. I can't imagine this arc ending before before the year ends. And I feel like there's so much that we got to get through. I don't even know if it's going to end by the end of next year, to be honest.
It will. It's going at such a pace right now. Like we've only been 20 chapters in, and we've already gotten a lot of meat.
Yeah, and actually, building on that, this is from the one and only, who says, seeing how it's the year of Sanji, when do you think this current arc will end? Is it about time to do this, Zach?
That's a good point. We're going to be having our Zoe winner on in a couple of weeks, actually. So I think we're going to be opening up our Whole Cake Island stakes. Let's do it this week or next week. Keep an eye out. Yeah.
Let's do it next week. Everyone can sort of get their thoughts together about when they think it's going to end. We don't want to put them on the spot right now.
Right.
Yeah, we should do this soon.
Yes. Yeah, we will.
All right. Put a pin in that one.
Yes.
But coming up to the next question from CP3 Greatness, what role will Pudding play in this arc? We talk about Sanji not having a lot of agency. She seems to have even less. Well, she hasn't done much yet. But I think she, I'm really not sure.
I've been trying to think about this too, and I have no idea. I just have no idea.
She'll be the crying princess.
God, I hope. I hope she stands up to her mother, and her mother kind of respects her opinion. Like,
I don't know about that, but
yeah, I know.
Nice.
That's a lot to hope for.
I could maybe see her she probably will actually end up leaving Whole Cake by the end of the arc. I don't know if she's going to be going with the Straw Hats, but I don't think she's going to be staying there for much longer.
I would like to see, actually, speaking of that, I would like to see her do so, obviously she doesn't end up with Sanji in the end. Sanji returns to the crew, they sail on, and then she's like, oh, what about my big sister Lola? Like, she went searching for a husband. Now I've got to find my own since this one failed, and sort of does the same thing, follows in her sister's footsteps. That'd be good.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Okay. Next question comes from God Lord, Loared. I feel like Pedro and Brook are going to save Jinbei, but do you think that Jinbei actually lost his limb in that trial?
I don't know.
He lost his head. Now, I like Stevens, just that he's swimming with the fishes.
He lost his marbles.
Sleeping with the fishes. Swimming also, possibly.
I can't swim.
Guess he can.
Yeah. I don't know. A part of me is a little afraid because I think it was Roger who suggested that his top knot would be cut off.
Yeah.
Which the thing is, because I personally would find that a very dissatisfying. It would be a very, but it would also be a very Oda-esque thing of oh my god, he's gonna die, something horrible is gonna happen. And it was just cutting off his hair, and it also
a big deal though. It's a very Japanese thing.
Well, exactly. It's the kind of thing that Oda would consider a huge deal, but looking at it from an outside perspective is sort of so what? Who cares?
Or
I would say that
anime Lover 1491 sort of builds on that. If you think Luffy is going to stand where he stands, or will it be Jinbei that finds him there, and he'll join the crew on that spot?
I kind of feel like Jinbei is involved with whatever's going on with Peckham's right now, because we know Peckham's is not dead. Capone shot him however many times back in Zoe. He shot him again during Whole Cake. I know. And they threw him inside of a lake filled with whale sharks. And I'm like, come on.
Those aren't whale sharks.
No, those were regular sharks.
The regular old sharks.
Regardless. Sharks. I mean, there's something there. I don't know if Aladdin's going to show up or Jinbei, but someone's got to be there to save Peckham's, because Peckham's is not part fishman. Peckham's is a mink. So he would drown because he has a devil fruit power. Someone would have to go and save him. And the only real possibility I'm thinking of right now who would also know Peckham's would be Jinbei or Aladdin.
So wait, if Jinbei shows up instead to join the crew, would that just basically be like that one meme where it's friendship ended with Sanji, now I am best friends with Jinbei sort of thing?
Oh my god, that's one of the best memes of all time.
That's great.
I'm sure we'll see that one. Ed?
Well, a lot of people have questions about, since Big Mom, a lot of us don't think that Big Mom is necessarily bad. Do we have any ideas of what she might actually be, what her actual role is going to be? A lot of people are...
What is that? Good, chaotic, bad, neutral? What's that?
Chaotic neutral?
Chaotic neutral.
I see her as a chaotic neutral, yeah. You just don't really know what's going on there.
She's a force of nature.
She's literally a force of nature. Yeah.
That was Pro Cypher Waka Alfaro who asked about that.
I do mean literally. What's next?
Our very own Adil asks, if One Piece characters, preferably non-Straw Hats, were in the Inside Out universe from Pixar Animation, who would be what emotion? Pick any 5, or try to limit yourself to one. I never saw the movie.
Happiness, sadness, anger, jealousy, envy. No, jealousy is.
No,
envy.
jealousy's not one. It's disgust, fear,
Disgust, that's what it is.
anger, joy, and sadness.
Okay, I was kind of around there.
You're close enough. Yeah. And Bing Bong. There's Bing Bong too.
Bing
Yeah,
Bong,
it's Bing
yeah.
Bong, yeah. Luffy, I think, would be that.
Well, spoiler alert.
Wouldn't Brooke
you want
be
Luffy
Bing
to
Bong?
Bing Bong.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Bing Bong helped them get back to. He sacrificed himself to get them forward. So, if anything, Bing Bong is Ace.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if I'd
There are
agree
so
with
many
that.
good Photoshop opportunities this chapter. First, you mentioned the Mudasir friendship thing with Jinbei, and now you're talking about Bing Bong is Ace. Somebody out there, please Photoshop that, please.
It's like if Ace got like a wagon right through his chest.
It says instead of "Thank you for loving me," it's "Have Riley remember me." Like, oh man,
That was the
Oh,
saddest
boy.
and yet funniest thing I've ever
Yeah.
heard. I always thought Luffy was joy, but this
Yeah.
chapter he was anger.
I could see like young Koala being Joy. She's always got that look on her face.
Mm.
Well, that was because she was hiding deep sadness.
Young Blackbeard is sadness. Remember him crying in the corner?
oh yeah.
Yeah, we don't know why though.
Well.
I mean,
Anger could be Jack for sure, because that man, he just like that's pretty much his only emotion.
What
He's
about
just angry all the time.
I feel like Nami is disgust a little bit.
isn't Kobe could be fear, right? The first meeting of Kobe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kobe in general is a little.
I mean, Usopp is basically.
Yeah, Usopp is fear.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And Sanji is whatever the sequel of Inside Out will feature.
Outside in.
That's
Can't beat
Trademark
that.
That's nice.
Lally Witch just wanted to say that she just realized Sanji has never lived on dry land. The German kingdom, the Baradier, on Luffy's ship. His home has always been a boat.
Wow. Yeah, it's true. Except for that brief time in Kamabaka.
That's right.
Yeah,
2 years.
Yeah. What's next?
A couple of people have a hard time believing that Luffy will actually go on a hunger strike, but second Neoik, okay, specifically says, does Luffy's promise not to eat mean any less since he just spent all night eating biscuits? Homer, he
that's
spent the
true.
entire night eating 100 slices of American cheese.
Well, he's recovered
well-
from that, yeah.
Well, yeah, he's already metabolized it. He burnt all that fat away. He's good. He's good to go.
So I would say no, yeah. But that is a funny juxtaposition. What's next?
A long-time piece, the tweeter, Miranda Williams, says, Happy Halloween. This is the question you mentioned earlier, Zach. If it is Halloween in the One Piece world, what would the Straw Hat crew dress up as? So you've already answered this question.
No, we didn't.
No, we
kinda
didn't
just,
answer. Yeah,
skipped it.
I was surprised that no one answered, but
No,
please
you.
answer, guys.
I remember Zach going like, "All right, next question." I was like, "Oh, okay."
I tried to answer it. I was looking at the color spread that I got over here on the wall. They all have pumpkin heads.
Who would they dress up as?
Are they as other One Piece characters or just?
Yeah,
Okay.
This is as other One Piece characters.
Hold on, let me consult the first cover of One Piece Party.
They're all dressing
That's
as their
cheating.
parents because all their parents are dead.
I'm gonna say.
Why would she do that?
Except for,
Sorry. Why would
no,
let's
except for
unpack this
Usopp.
a
Usopp
moment.
is dressed up as Kylo Ren. No,
That's
even worse. No, he'd be Suicide Squad Joker.
Oh my
Like,
god!
Wow. Don't do that. Don't
that
do that
movie
to
wasn't
Usopp.
that bad. I think Usopp would be the one advocate for Suicide Squad. Be like, what? I thought it was good.
Usopp is Harley Quinn.
I'm gonna say Chopper is going to dress up as the eventual Tanuki character that we're going to meet in Wano Country. That's what I think Chopper
No.
is going to dress up as.
Oda already
fan
blew his
character.
wad. Oda blew his wad on the Tanuki character in Unlimited World Red.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a
whatever.
Tanuki. It was a
Yeah.
pen that ate,
Whatever.
Cares.
Yeah.
pen that ate
And
the
then-
Tanuki fruit.
And then I guess if they were 2016 people, just because I think this would be funny. I'd want to see Sanji and Nami dress up as Donald Trump and Melania Trump.
How about no?
Yeah, I want to see that
I
happen.
agree with Steve. Maybe we should move on.
Okay, next one. It's Aura asks, random question that I hope you haven't already answered, but who do you think is stronger, Cracker or Doflamingo? He's Doflamingo based on his Emperor's disposition, Haki.
Yeah.
Based on his mental strength is actually what puts him over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would give it to
very
Doflamingo.
determined. Yeah.
I would give it to Doflamingo. I would not watch that fight, but
That's like the longest fight. Like it's literally the longest fight. That fight would last 80 volumes.
you could read One Piece, or you could read this fight.
My bird cage is decorated with all these little Christmas ornament biscuits tied up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I have a biscuit cage.
It's the biscuit cage.
And it's gonna go twice as fast as your bird cage.
And it has gumdrops and icing, and it's the perfect Christmas pastime.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm gonna turn your biscuits into string.
Okay.
And attack.
No, you
Awaken
can't
biscuits.
because
Come on,
Okay.
let's keep going. I have to keep going.
The Dr. Monkey says, do you think Buggy and Shanks know what the One Piece is? They were on Roger's crew after all. I always believed that they didn't.
Maybe.
Nah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
Mm-mm.
I think that's a secret that only Whitebeard knew.
Well, no, I think Rayleigh knew, didn't he?
Well, Rayleigh too, but if Shanks knows, it's he doesn't care or not, or just keeping it. Maybe he's keeping the secret safe, basically.
yeah, I think
One Piece
Shanks,
is like, what was that, sir?
I'm sorry, I think Shanks does know. I think he's just not gonna.
And Buggy doesn't, because he left the crew earlier than Shanks did.
Yeah, Buggy definitely doesn't. They would have kicked him off. They would have like sent him out on a little dinghy before they got there. It's like, okay, so long.
Buggy didn't leave the crew when before Shanks did.
He did?
I mean, like the crew had already dissolved.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I'm
Buggy
aware. I'm
definitely doesn't know, so I believe Shanks also does not.
Buggy might know. He just might not care.
Yeah, but wasn't he also after? Was he after the One Piece also?
No,
Maybe
he was
it's
after
not
Captain John.
it's not that kind of treasure.
Oh,
He's
right,
not that kind.
right.
Not that kind of treasure, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still something.
He was so dissatisfied by the answer. He's just like, no, I want some real treasure.
What?
What's next?
Okay. Sandra Corazon just says, love this chapter. Didn't realize it was short until the last page. Made me want more.
I don't even think it was super short. I just think it felt.
It was normal.
Quick. Yeah, it
Yeah.
felt really quick, which is good. That's a really good thing for a chapter.
Our final question comes from Arctic Jean, who says, after Whole Cake Island, how do y'all think Germa 66's role in the Reverie and the world of One Piece will change?
Well, they won't be at the
They're done.
Reverie. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Dunzo.
I think Dunzo is the answer to that. The most adequate answer. All right, that does it for Piece Together. You guys ready to round off?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 442 for Halloween, October 31st, 2016. Good episode today, you guys. It was for anime, episode 762, and manga, chapter 844. Thank you guys for coming on the show. I want to also thank Sam for doing our anime recap earlier, and Roger and Kyle, thank you guys for coming on. I want to mention, again, the One Piece Kabuki is happening in Los Angeles, November the 27th. So please, if you can, go out there. There's going to be 2 showings, one at 10 a.m., one at 1:30 p.m. Steve and Roger, both of you will be there, maybe others as well. I think Brian is going to be there, maybe Jill. So please, make your way out there. Check out the One Piece Kabuki. To find out more, click the link in the description. Or our website at onepiecepodcast.com. Also want to mention again, please subscribe to us on Patreon at patreon.com/onepiecepodcast. Exclusive episode coming out this week. Lots of other cool stuff for all our subscribers, including a lot of outtakes I've been hoarding. Those are coming soon. But I think we could go through, where could people find you, Kyle?
You can look forward to my next editorial this Wednesday. It's political themed, given that that's the time of year it is. And it's going to be talking about my predictions for the Reverie, mostly what it has to do, or what the royal heirs that we've seen so far, what role they might play in it. So give it a read. You can also follow me on Twitter at Renfield89.
So, Kyle, you're not talking about propositions at all. No ballot initiatives.
Not quite.
Okay. I don't know how you're going to get readers if you're not talking about ballot initiatives. Anyway, Roger.
You can find me at Rogers Base on Twitter, on YouTube, and Twitch. I don't really know what else I have coming up soon in terms of things you guys should look forward to. I have a One Piece theory that I've been crafting for a while. That's not anything stupid. It doesn't have anything to do with Bonnie or anything like that.
It's mostly has Bonnie. It's Bonnie.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It's Bonnie. No, and actually, it does somewhat have to do with the Reverie. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Steven.
Oh, okay. My name is not Alex. My name's Steven. You can follow me on Twitter if you like, at Translatosaurus. And I'm very busy right now, but pretty soon I should be wrapping up some stuff. I can talk about some of the really awesome things that I have been working on or about to get into. So stay tuned.
Alex?
You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and not really Vine anymore.
You were the last holdout there.
Well, R.I.P. At Dude exclamation, all one word. Listen to me on Tohoyaro. It's Halloween as of this recording. So what better time than to watch the movie House on Hulu and then listen to our episode on House.
And if you need to come down after that, you can watch Ikiru for next month.
That's right, and by next month he means in a matter of days, actually.
And by the time that episode comes out, you'll have stopped crying, hopefully.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Just to let you know that Hulu will only have those movies up until November 11th, at which point they're going to Filmstruck, which I think is Criterion's new streaming service. So if you have a Hulu account, please watch House and Ikiru and listen to Tohoyaro.
Is Filmstruck free, or is it paid?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No. Anything Criterion is never free. Also keep an eye out on the 20 minutes of bullshit Twitter. That's 20 Mins BS. We'll have some announcements there at some point.
Steve.
You can find me on social media like Twitter and Tumblr and Instagram, Steve Yurko, all one word. It's the last day of Inktober. Just want to thank all those that gave my drawings likes. Really appreciate that. And see where life takes me.
Ed, where could the good people out there contact us?
Well, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. Festizio. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. Support our Patreon, Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. Leave us some piece together on Reddit, Reddit.com/r/OnePiecePodcast. Our email address is OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com. One Piece Podcast, all one word, no spaces. That's our Skype name. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Google Play, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, or call us on our phone number. Zach?
That phone number is 347-497-MAJI.
MAJI!
That phone number again is 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Call anytime.
With your questions, comments, theories, or Jack Daniels. Thank you all for coming on the show. Really good episode this week. Please tell your friends, family, and anyone else who will listen to you about the One Piece podcast, and make sure to listen to us every week.
Please rate and review and subscribe on iTunes. That helps us.
Yes, it does. And SoundCloud, and anywhere you could get your mitts on the One Piece podcast. And that's going to do it for this week. Next week we'll be back with another manga recap for chapter 845. And an anime recap for episode 763. So until next time, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
My name is Steve.
And my name is Alex.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Happy Dia de los Muertos, because by the time you're going to listen to this, Halloween's kind of ending. But
That's the Day of the Dead.